name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Hello and welcome to James Bond Radio. This is podcast number 54. That's 5-4 for everyone out there. Today we're going to be talking about part 2 of our Bond Girls review. And with me is my good buddy and fellow Bond fan, Mr. Tom Sears. Say good day, Tom.
Well, good morning, Chris. How are you today?
Not too bad. It's evening over here, but morning over there. I hear you've just had your breakfast.
Absolutely. It was Bond-style scrambled eggs, but no
nice.
coffee or any other shenanigans. I'm not a coffee drinker. It was a cup of good old-fashioned British builder's tea, which I have to have shipped in specially when I'm in America. And yeah, some scrambled eggs. Lovely stuff. How about you?
Did you have any bacon with it? Or?
I didn't. No, I've got to watch the old waistline, so I keep out the bacon at this point.
I'm sure like Fleming's recipe had like half a tub of butter in it as well. He loved it, didn't he?
Absolutely. Artery clogging thickness. Yeah, absolutely.
Too right.
What have you been up to this week? You've been training for your ultra marathon again?
So I've got another one in like 2 weeks' time, which I only signed up to last week, and I've been like pretty unfit as of late due to various injuries and stuff. So I went for a little run yesterday. I'm going to try and do a couple more before the big day, but yeah,
very nice.
We'll see. Hopefully I'll do better than last time. I pulled my leg muscle after 15 miles and had to hop and skip the rest of the way, so Jesus. I'm hoping I'll last a little longer this time.
Cool.
If I can.
Excellent stuff. Yeah. So we're talking about we're continuing our Bond Girls coverage this week. Obviously last week we went through from Dr. No all the way through to Live and Let Die. And we're going from Man with the Golden Gun onwards today. So exciting times. You excited to talk Bond Girls, Chris?
I mean, how can you not be excited to talk about Bond Girls? You can't help get a smile on your face, get a little sort of ruffle in your undergarments while you're talking about it. You know? Yeah. It's a good subject for sure.
Good stuff. So before we get cracking then, make sure you come and join us on Facebook. Just pop James Bond Radio into the Facebook search box. Come and follow us on Twitter, which is at James Bond Radio. Come and join us over on jamesbondradio.com, where you can join in the conversation in the comments section of any of the blog posts or any of the podcasts we put out or on the website too. And of course, you can leave us a voicemail over on the website as well. There's a big old button that you can't miss. If you want to leave us a trivia question or for one of the mailbag episodes, you can ask us a question, or if you want to leave a listener quote. But if you do, make sure you send us another message with the answer in as well, so we can also play that when we answer your trivia question. And last but not least, come over to our iTunes page. A nice little shortcut link is jamesbondradio.com/iTunes. That will take you straight to the iTunes page. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a lovely glowing 5-star review, that would be much appreciated, because it helps us rank higher in the iTunes and attract more listeners, doesn't it, Chris?
It does indeed, and that's what we love, is attracting more and more listeners, growing the Bond community and getting everyone to hold hands so there'll be enough people to rap all the way around the world. Do you think we're getting there?
I think we're on our way, but I tell you what, Chris, I don't think anything has divided Bond fans more without the hand holding and the usual camaraderie and love than a certain little song by Mr. Sam Smith that came out last week.
Yeah, I know. It's been pretty crazy, isn't it? I mean, you and I have got quite similar sort of feelings about it. I know quite a few others share our opinion as well, but then there's so many that you know we've heard sort of differing opinions on. Do you think that will change? Do you think given time that will change? Do you think there'll be people that will definitely never ever like it, or what do you think?
I mean, look, I think we did our little emergency podcast last week, didn't we, where we sort of broke it down bit by bit, and even that itself is inspired a little bit of kind of venom and poison. It's like, how could you possibly like this song? It's shit, is the overwhelming response. But yeah, I tell you what, I must admit, I've actually done a complete 180. I read a little something yesterday, Chris. I was all for this song. I was saying, bring it on. Yeah, it's great.
Now,
I'm not so sure, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Sam Smith released a Spotify playlist of his 5 favourite Bond songs. I think it was 5. And in that top 5, one of his choices was Die Another Day.
No.
And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, no.
Come on.
Oh, God.
Seriously?
Yeah. Top 5.
Do you remember what the top 5 were?
Do you know what? I'll probably be able to find it very quickly if I can just Google it. I should have been prepared, but I'm clearly not. Sam Smith.
Do you remember what placing Die Another Day was?
Playlist.
Did he do them in order, or was it just any?
I believe so. 5 greatest Bond songs, and the news from Sam Smith. Okay, let's see. What have we got?
Okay. What's in 5th place? The start from his lowest to his highest.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, no, they better not be first.
Hold on. That's his. That's not his list. That's somebody else. Sam Smith's favourite Bond songs. This is making amazing listing, isn't it?
This is like, wow, I bet everyone's loving this. Yeah.
Do you know what? It's I've completely failed everybody. It's I can't actually find it right off the top of my head, so we'll scrap it for the moment.
Don't worry.
All right. But yeah, it might not have been top 5. It might have been top 10 or something like that. But all I know is that Die Another Day featured in it, which is bad enough, right? It's
featured in it, and it wasn't the last song on his list.
So there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not even sure what to think anymore. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, I think that song, I can totally understand why people have reacted how they have, because it's that different. Yeah. But I think and I did a little post on Facebook as well, just to say, like, look, if you're reacting badly to it, like, just give it some time, because I know so many times with so many things, like whether it's been a favorite band who've brought out a new album or whatever it is, and if it's that different to what you're expecting, you're just like, oh fuck, this is shit, and that's your automatic reaction, because you sort of deep down you want more of the same. And it's just like, I know so many times I've started off like that and ended up loving it. I did the same with the Chris Cornell's track. And I think it was just saying, like, just give it a breather for a few days and just let it settle. And what makes me laugh is the people that go, no, I'm not going to let it settle. I hate it immediately. It's shit. Which is quite funny. But
there's been a lot of that.
Yeah. But how about you? It's been out for a week now. So how's it settling for you?
I've probably... I still like it. I'm never going to change it. I just know it's going to get better. I just can't wait to see it with some sort of footage or the title scenes behind it. I do think it's funny, everyone's opinions. And it's almost like if someone hates it, they're like, well, hang on a minute, that means that you should hate it. It's almost like, religion, some religions are trying to push on other people. Yeah. It's like, some people's opinions, if they're so strong about it, they want everyone else to feel the same as them. But, everyone feels differently. Okay, we like it, but we're not pushing it onto others. And it's just whatever people feel.
I think all we've said so far is I think it does have the potential to be a future classic with a bit of time passing, because you just don't, like, when something's new and it just comes out, it does need time. Like, I'm not ready to rank it against the other Bond songs or anything at this point. I mean, it's just way too soon. You can't possibly compare it to a Goldfinger because it's had 50 years of classic status. You just can't do that. And I think, all we're saying is, just give it a little bit of time and breathing room and space, because I've seen it so many times where they do gradually grow. And for me, oftentimes, the ones that do take the longest to really settle in and to sort of grow on you are the ones that have the most longevity. So, So there we go.
But if not, then hey ho, never mind. You can go and listen to some of the other ones.
Yeah, but I tell you what, there is a point that should be made as well. That a lot of people, like, have seen a common comment is, this is like the first doubt I have about the film, and oh god, this is going to ruin the title sequence for me, and oh god, I'm going to put my fingers in my ears during the whole title sequence, and blah 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 blah. And I think, ultimately, okay, like, it's perfectly fine if you genuinely don't like the song, even after time's passed, if you genuinely don't like it, that's fine, and it's a perfectly valid opinion, as it is if you do like it. But what I think does more damage to a Bond film, is that negative energy. If you're sitting there going, it's fucking spoiling the whole title sequence, the song could be dog shit, but I think what spoils the film more is the negativity. I'm worried, like, when we go and see the film, that the talking point is, I like the film, but that song was so shit, and everybody's just talking about how much they hate the song. That for me is more damaging than, if Madonna did a sequel to Die Another Day for Spectre. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I know when we sit down to watch it, I've told myself, if the gun barrel is there, I'm going to wet myself and go crazy. If it's not there, I'm going to say, okay, it's for artistic reasons. It's not meant to be there. Yeah. Just go with it. Yeah. And you kind of almost have to, program yourself to think like that sometimes. Yeah. Like, for instance, Quantum of Solace. Okay, some people still hate that. When I saw it, I was outraged. I wrote like an 18-page letter or something. Yeah. But now, okay, it's definitely not my favourite by any stretch of the imagination, but it's still is solid Bond, and it has ranked higher since the early days. And we'll just see what everyone thinks. But no way, don't be negative about one little thing for the whole film. I know it's not a little thing, but let's just enjoy it. Let's make Spectre. It could be the best Bond for a long time.
Absolutely,
who knows? Or at least one of the best. So let's see what they bring.
So let's join hands around the world, Bond fans. Let's just join hands, and if you don't like Sam Smith, let's just find forgiveness in our hearts for him. I'm going to have to try and find a way past that Die Another Day thing. I know that much, and I'm finding that a struggle. I must be honest. Righty ho, then. So let's do a bit of Bond trivia then, shall we? Before we start talking Bond girls today.
Okie dokie. Sounds good. Okay, so I'm going to jump in first for my Bond trivia question this time. And it is Bond girl related. Now, everyone knows that James Bond's favourite drink, or at least some might say, is a shaken not stirred vodka martini, although he is partial to a Vesper, champagne, and various other bits and pieces. But, Mr. Tom Sears, can you tell me which Bond girls have also tried a vodka martini shaken not stirred?
Oh, good Lord. I think you might have stumped me on that one, actually. All right, I'm going to give that some thought. Good stuff. Excellent question, Chris, as per usual. My question, I couldn't think of a Bond girl-related one this week, so I just pulled out a random one. My question is, in what film do we hear reference to the African Job? That is, in what film do we hear reference to the African Job? So we will answer those questions at some point throughout today's episode, so make sure you stay tuned, as the Americans say. So we finished up with a bit of Solitaire last time, didn't we? Which was a deep sensual pleasure for the pair of us. And this week it's Man with the Golden Gun time. Now, how do we feel about the Man with the Golden Gun, Bond girls, Chris?
I think, we got two main Swedish girls for this. I think they both rock the sort of Roger vibe going on. Good chemistry. I think, okay, let's start with Andrea Anders. What do you think of her character? We see her right at the start, don't we? First time we see her is on a very island familiar to you. On an island very familiar to you, sitting there chilling under the sun. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think the cool thing about Andrea Anders is it's kind of like she's almost like a Domino style character, isn't she? You know how we talked about last time, like she's the kept woman. She's sort of, she's kept sort of against her will, I suppose. If she left, she would probably face some pretty deep problems. So she's that sort of damsel in distress kind of character in a sense, without being weak. I think she's quite a strong character. She kind of she has the bravery to kind of get the bullet together and get sent to London with 007 on there, which does beg the question: how has she heard of Bond? Have you any thoughts on that?
Well, everyone's heard of Bond, apparently, according in this film, haven't they?
Yeah, I suppose.
Like High Fat's heard of him and all of that. I suppose if she's looking for someone who can help her out, she wants to find out who the best sort of secret agent or assassin potentially is in the world, aside from Francisco. And she probably did some digging around or looked, in the yellow pages, maybe.
I suppose thinking about it, old Scaramanga's got the old statue of him in there on his island and all that kind of stuff. He's probably come up in conversation over dinner, isn't he? That's probably I'd imagine probably where it came from.
Yeah. When I imagine Scaramanga probably shouts his name out in bed once or twice by accident. And
while he's rubbing his gun all over.
Who's this?
Yeah.
So I think she obviously knew that. Interesting how she must have got his fingerprint on the bullet as well. So I'm imagining she nicked one of his bullets after he'd already fingered the bullet and then got the 007 inscribed and then sent it, rather than him having the bullet inscribed 007. Because otherwise you'd go, where's my 007 bullet? Where is it?
You would, wouldn't you?
So I think she obviously did that. So ingenuity to do that. And the fact, like you said, she was brave enough to, even though she was a kept woman, she was brave enough to ask for help with Bond. Like, I think Domino, if it wasn't for the whole brother situation, she might have still ended up where she was, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Miss Anders was that she knew that, like, things weren't getting any better and she had to sort it out, I think. Couple of good scenes with her as well.
Absolutely, definitely stuff. So next up, let's talk about Saida. She's got some good belly dancing skills, and she's quite charming apparently as well. Any thoughts about Saida?
Well, it's quite a cool scene, isn't it? So Bond sees her belly dancing, but he's obviously focusing on her navel for a very good reason. The flat dum-dum bullet, which she uses to help her dance and all that sort of thing, who killed 002 back in the day. Interesting thing how she managed to retrieve the bullet. We're not party to that, are we? Or are we? Maybe, I'm not sure. It passed through his stomach and ended up in her belly button.
Absolutely. But I was thinking, this is almost like a throwback to the pre-title sequence of Goldfinger, isn't it? We get a bit of belly dancing action in that. Bond goes into the back room to have a little bit of shenanigans with her, and it's the same in this one. So he's obviously partial to a bit of belly dancing, is our Bond.
He is, and he does get proper cheesy in this scene as well. It does, Rog. He gets the odd, you have a a perfect abdomen.
You have a magnificent abdomen.
A magnificent abdomen.
Nice stuff. And then we have...
it is cool.
So next up we have, I would say this next Bond girl is a bit of a divider of opinion. We've got Mary Goodnight. A lot of people would say, I've heard mention that she's found quite annoying and all that kind of stuff. For me, I'm very partial to some Goodnight. I have to say, I don't mind that she hasn't got a lot to say. I'm just very partial to it. Yeah.
Is that even when she's not wearing a bikini?
Less so, I will be honest. But I mean, I think what we have to do as men is salute the nation of Sweden just for a moment and just salute them for what they bring to the world, because it is quite spectacular. I think Mary Goodnight is banging. I think she is one of those, like we said, she is one of those Bond girls that doesn't really, she's not one of those who's an equal to Bond or, sort of provides much value apart from just looking great. She doesn't even shoot someone in the back with a harpoon at the end and save him at the last minute. There's none of that going on. She's pure window dressing, and I think that's not a bad thing. I think sometimes you have people that are just window dressing, and I say bring it on. Let's have some Goodnight.
I differ slightly from that. I think she's all right. Like, the fact she's kind of works for MI6 as well. For me, she's a little bit on the bimbo inept side for something like that. A bit like Rosie Carver, supposedly working for the CIA.
Let's face it, she's a lot on the bimbo side, Yeah,
hugely. Using her ass to accidentally almost fry Bond was a good one.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that the actual character is used, Mary Goodnight, because she's in a few of the novels, isn't she? So it's not just in one. So, I mean, I know we posed a question recently about which Bond characters would you like to see return. Mary Goodnight might be an interesting one at some point. I don't know if it ever will, but there we go. But no, I think she, she's interesting. Like you said, she is good to look at and everything like that. But for me, just that little bit too much of the lack of brain cells to a certain extent.
I'm fine with that. I don't with some Bond girls, I'm happy to not have the brain cells. So cool. I suppose final honourable mention goes to Chumi. Now, before we speak about Chumi, again, just a little bit of a pre-apology to any of our female listeners. But Chumi needs to be celebrated because as far as I'm aware, and I have spent a lot of time, Chris, I have spent a lot of time combing through these movies for things like this.
I believe you.
I believe Chumi is the only Bond girl who actually provides, I'm just going to come straight out with it, provides a little glimpse of minge in the Bond films. Is that
a bit full frontal?
Yeah, exactly. We get it. Obviously, it's refracted through swimming pool water, but that is enough to work with, I feel.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, aside from potentially some of the titles, girls, you know, in the title sequences where you might see a little bit. I think in terms of
a little bit of bush,
a little bit of bush. In terms of full-on frontal, I can't think of any others actually. No. Yeah, and you're right. The little water reflections there. But, I mean, it's a great line as well. You know, I have no swimming trunks. Neither have I.
There you go.
It's, you know, it's brilliant, isn't it? I like that bit. Yeah, so definitely worth an honourable mention, if for nothing else, that she was nickety.
Yeah, so I suppose we should, I mean, for the benefit of all of us, we should pass this out to the JBR listeners. If there are any other incidences of Bond girl sort of punani throughout the series, do let us know. Do get in touch with that, because I would definitely be interested to find the results of that. So, Chris, it's time to choose our best Bond girl moment from The Man with the Golden Gun. Have you got one?
I'm not sure. I mean, that aforementioned scene with Chumi and Bond is quite an interesting, funny one. But I suppose you've got to go with one of the main Bond girls, so either Anders or Goodnight. I'm not sure. There's that whole scene in the hotel room where they're both there, which is quite a funny one. Where, basically, he looks Goodnight in the cupboard, and then he's speaking to Anders and all that. Actually, she's in the bed first, isn't she? When
That's right. Yeah, the old three pillow trick, as he calls her. I gotta say, man, I'm a big fan of those Roger moments where he's just a sexist bastard, and I adore this scene. I love it. There he is. He's about to bed Goodnight, and then obviously Miss Anders comes in. She's under the covers. Miss Anders just excuses herself for a few minutes. He throws her in the cupboard, closes the door. Now let's just think about what's happening here. Goodnight has to sit in that wardrobe all night, listening to him phoning Anders, and then when he wakes up in the morning, she's obviously all mad at him and stuff, you know. And I just love it. I love it when he goes, "Oh, don't worry, your turn will come." Oh my god, I love it. It's so awful. It's so awful, but it's so brilliant. I that might even be my favourite Roger moment of all time. That one, I really love it. Yeah.
No, is that one you've ever tried to reenact?
I would love to. I've never had the opportunity, sadly, but you know, I suppose Sean would have gone for them both, wouldn't he? He had the Gypsy Girl thing going on.
That's it.
Whereas Roger, you know, I suppose it would have damaged the mission somewhat to have that. So he needed to go solo with Anders that time, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah. I think another little honourable mention is with Goodnight when they're sat down when Bond and Scaramanga and Goodnight are all sat down in the Scaramanga's Island about to have dinner, and she does the whole "fried mushrooms look terribly interesting" line, obviously trying to hint to Bond what's going on, and that's kind of cool because it does show at least a little bit of ingenuity, I guess, to a certain extent. So that's quite a good bit, I think.
Yeah, very nice, good stuff.
There we go.
So, Man with the Golden Gun, Bond girls, we salute you. Excellent stuff. Next up, we are in Spy Who Loved Me territory. Now, we've got some absolutely banging Bond girls in this one, haven't we? So
it's a good one.
You kick things off then, Chris. Where are we starting with the Spy?
Okay, well, it's hard to know whether you start with the main girls or the small, you know, the minor parts. But I guess the first one we see, I suppose. Well, okay, should we start with the main one? Let's just go with Anya because there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, we'll start with Anya. Okay, so Triple X, probably one of my favourite Bond girl characters in the whole series. I think the intro's amazing. You see her in bed. They're talking about Agent Triple X. You think it's the guy who obviously turned out to be Sergei Barzov, and then you find out it's her. Straight away, you're on that twist, like, "Oh, hello, didn't see that coming." And then throughout the film, she's equal or better than Bond. Like every time you see her, you know, when they meet in the Majaba Club, and Bond sort of knows a little bit about her and spouts off one or two lines, she's suddenly back at him going, mentions about his dead wife, what drink he likes and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, okay, you made your point. And so she sort of betters him then. And then there's a bit in the pyramids where they've got the stolen microphone and they're talking about Stromberg's sort of laboratory and where it is, and she betters him again, and you can just see their relationship slowly go from almost quite offish to warming to each other up, and it gets they're enjoying each other's company, and you think, okay, this is going great, and then you get the big twist where she sees the firelighter. And he mentions where he's got it from, and suddenly you're like, there we go. It's come slightly unstuck there. So there's a real nice chemistry and character journey between them. What do you think of Anya?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's several levels to this one, isn't it? First of all, she's Agent Triple X. I would imagine, there's the Soviet equivalent of the 00 section. And maybe it's the double X section, and she happens to be triple X. I don't know, but that's cool. She's direct line to Gogol. She's a high ranking kind of operative. She can get the job done, and I really do like that whole kind of angle where obviously Bond's killed her fella, and then she finds out, and then there's that whole thing. When we finish this mission, I will kill you, kind of thing. And
she means it as well.
She means it. She's gonna do it, and I love the fact it's another one of those, isn't it, where Bond just gets in under those defenses a little bit, and just over time, just gets the job done, and she loosens up by the end of it. She's not gonna kill him by the end of it. Let's face it. She's gonna get it out for him.
Well, I think for sure. I think the fact that he obviously saved her from Karl Stromberg, saved her from Atlantis, she's obviously got an 0-1 for that. It'd be a bit of a shitter if he saved her and then suddenly she turned around and shot him. It'd be like, okay, not doing that again. But no, she looks fabulous as well. That dress that she wears going to the Mojave Club, she looks amazing, hot, so stunning. And again, in the train sequence when she's dressed in her little sort of lingerie night dress thing, looks amazing. Then George obviously pops up to say goodnight, and things go a bit sort of wrong there. But I mean, that's great. Again, he saves her life then, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think what must be said actually for Anya is I think she provides what can only be described as the most formidable cleavage throughout the entire series. I think I struggle. I mean, there's been some amazing cleavage.
Solitaire is pretty close.
Oh, I was just about to say that. Yeah, that was some formidable cleavage as well. But I think, and again, sorry to the lady listeners, I'm just sorry. You're just going to have to deal with this because it's the subject matter. When at the very end, when they're escaping from Atlantis and there's all the water and she's sopping wet running through those corridors. Good Lord above. That pleased me as a young teenage boy. Many times, yeah,
and it still does now.
And it still does now. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, I would say Anya is one of those that she's genuinely is like the Soviet equivalent of Bond. She's the female. She outwits him on so many occasions. When they're on that boat and she gives it does the cigarette thing with the sleeping smoke gas, whatever you'd call it. Yeah. She's one step ahead every time. And of course, I say one step ahead, but they're level pegging all the time, aren't they? She gets him one up on him, he gets one up on her, and they're just back and forth the whole time. Which I would imagine leads to some quite entertaining bedroom antics for the pair of them.
I imagine so. Yeah, I wonder who. I'd imagine probably Anya would be first in there with her choice of position, and then Bond sort of. We're taking JBR to another level this week, aren't
we?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
The positions of Bond.
Overall, though, overall, I would say, particularly for the Roger era, she is definitely one of the strongest Bond girls.
Yeah.
For me, and in several sort of ways, but for me, double thumbs up, brilliant Bond girl. Anya Amasaba.
I do wonder whether she was like an answer to the previous Bond girls that Roger had, because they were all very much damsels in distress, weren't they? So this is like the first one from the Roger era who's like a strong standalone character in her own right. So who's up next?
Okay, so next we can look at Felicia, or I think that's how you pronounce her name. Now, she is the one who, when Bond goes looking for Aziz Fakesh, he goes to his house, and she's there to entertain him. And he's very like, nice. Oh, I've had breakfast, but I seem to have... I've had lunch, but I seem to have skipped dessert or something like that, isn't it? Yeah. And obviously they're making out. And then in a similar sort of bit to Thunderball, Sandor's there and he shoots, and Bond just sees him and then turns and then shoots Felicia. Yeah. So she's not in for long, so it's more of an honourable mention, but definitely worth a shout. She's quite cool, and it still sort of plays a good part and everything like that. Yeah. What do you think of her?
Again, honourable mention. She's in it sort of in the blink of an eye. She provides that sort of Bond girl service where he shows up. I mean, we've talked about this before when we reviewed Spy, but wouldn't it be lovely that you would, I'd come to visit you in Cardiff, for example, and then, some lovely beauty comes in. Oh, Chris is unavailable at the moment. He's going to be here shortly. I'm here to entertain you. That would be brilliant. Bring it on. That never seems to happen in real life.
I could probably arrange that if you give me advance notice. I think I might be able to. Yeah.
Could you? That would be lovely. Thanks, man.
All right, no worries.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. So she's pretty good. So I think next, obviously, we've got to talk about JBR friend, we can say now, is the absolutely desirable and beautiful Naomi. Now, what do we think?
I'm going to have to be careful here, because I'm very, very partial to Naomi, and I always have. And now we've spoken to her, I feel a bit weird.
It is a bit strange, actually. Yeah. But Caroline Munro, she was absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
So wasn't she? She was absolutely great to chat to. Yeah. But the character Naomi is so good. I think she's brilliant. For the amount of screen time that she has, she's just evil. She is a great femme fatale, isn't she? She is like evil personified. When I just love that wink that she gives Bond when she's in the helicopter and he's in the Lotus. That's a brilliant chase. Obviously, there's a great line when she rocks up in the boat and Bond's like, "Oh, what a handsome craft." Such lovely lines. And so there's some real good cheesy stuff going on as well. And Bond is blatantly flirting with her in front of like Triple X, which is pretty bad. But I for me, I think she's brilliant. And so hot as well. But I don't know if we can mention that, but she is. But anyway, so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, much the same. Very much so. Naomi's always been a favourite of mine throughout the years. Very, very partial, and as I say, absolutely lovely too to speak to on the phone. I think with those kind of sort of, I would describe her as like a naughty Bond girl. Like you've got, Fiona Volpe would be a naughty Bond girl. She's on the naughty team. And
Xenia.
Xenia's another one. She's a naughty Bond girl. Yeah. And I love it when you see the naughty Bond girls get stuck into a bit of action. They're not just there to look amazing in a bikini, which obviously, Naomi does very well. But you see Fiona get on the motorbike, get on all her leathers and go and get rid of Count Lippy and stuff. Naomi's not scared to jump in a helicopter and try and take Bond on. I think it's cool when you see them actually in action rather than just sort of standing around looking pretty. I think that's good on Naomi for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that they are doing, like, for instance, Naomi in the helicopter with the guns. That's so much better than just like a Stromberg sort of, crony just in there doing, You Only Live Twice. It was okay. There was quite a few of them, and it was battling Little Nelly, and then they were chasing Kissy Suzuki when she was swimming away. But in The Spy, if it had just been a guy, it would have been like, oh, okay. But the fact that it's Naomi and she's enjoying it as well, clearly enjoying it. I think
she's
it's
a
great.
cheeky one.
But also a really good sort of memorable death as well. Let's say goodbye to uninvited guests, and then
Such a
missile
shame,
goes
that
up
moment, isn't it? It's such a shame. I wish he could have taken her alive, but such is the situation, unfortunately. But yeah, good old Naomi, absolutely right up there in my list anyway. So I'm having to be really careful about what I say.
I know. This is the censored version.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do the uncut version for the elite members or whatever. So I suppose there's quite a few honourable mentions that need to be made for this movie as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So we'll start with Log Cabin Girl, played by Zufana, obviously in the pre-title sequence. Now, I mean, this is great. You've got Bond and the girl on a massive sort of, I don't know if it's a sheepskin rug or whatever sort of rug it is, in front of the fire in this wooden chalet in the snowy mountains. Picture perfect. He gets his little message from me in the ticker tape watch, and obviously he has to get out of there. And she's like, "Oh, James, I need you."
So does England.
And it's like, dee-dee, and then he's obviously dressed up and leave that. And then as soon as he left, he's like, he has just left. And she's a baddie, and I love it. I love baddies, women.
Absolutely,
awesome.
I think they're the best kind. I think. I think that setting. When you first see Bond, there he is, big sort of white fluffy rug in front of the open fire. I mean, what a great. It's like we said, didn't we, when you first meet Rogers Bond and there he is romancing Agent Caruso in Live and Let Die, and it's like that sets the tone for Rogers Bond, and it's like this scene is just that again, like perhaps turned up to the next level, I think. but yeah, brilliant stuff. Log Cabin Girl, excellent work. Then next up, does this character have a name? We've got Stromberg's sort of assistant, the one that he ends up sort of throwing to the sharks because she's leaked information and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's just known as Stromberg assistant or not, but she's got a funny old hairdo. I just remember she looks almost like a Thunderbirds girl, basically looks kind of like that, doesn't she?
I've often thought that, a little bit sort of puppety looking, like a bit odd. Yeah.
As if she was controlled by strings. Yeah. but no, again, it's quite a cool little scene. Obviously, it's only an honourable mention, but she does. I don't even know if she says anything. But obviously, Stromberg speaking to Dr. Beckman and Professor Markovitz, saying about this sort of development which has risen. And my dear, it would seem more seemly if you left us to chat, sort of thing. So she goes in the lift and then boom down, and it's a great way of sort of showcasing what's coming later on in the film as well. Yeah. Honourable mention for sure. I think another one which we've got to say is Sheikh Hussein's harem of women in his tent. Now, I mean, we can't sort of leave Spy without mentioning that particular scene, I think.
When one is in Egypt, one should delve deeply into it. Absolutely.
And I bet he did as well.
I'm sure he did. It would be rude not to. Absolutely. Yeah. So quite the group of banging Bond girls in the Spy Love Me. Absolutely good stuff. Definitely. So do you have a favourite Bond girl moment from Spy?
Interesting. I mean, Naomi's wink is up there for sure. I think with Anya, there's a lot of good stuff actually with Anya, isn't there? I do like that scene in the Majaba Club where she sort of gets one up over him. I love the bit where Bond is like, in Corsica, I believe. Actually, sir, it is in Sardinia. And I love that bit. And like, again, any time where she sort of outdoes him, I think is brilliant. And it happens a lot. So for me, I think anything like that is good. I don't know. What about you? Have you got any?
There are, again, it depends what you're looking for, isn't it? Like, for example, like you either have a moment where they've done something really cool, or it's a very hard-hitting moment, like, there's obviously Tracy's death and things like that, or something ridiculously sexist to do with Roger or whatever. I think for me, I think because it's such a famous moment as well, it's another one of those iconic moments. I think for me, it has to go to the very end of the film, where it's like, 007, what are you doing? And he's like, keeping the British end up, sir. Even though that's not directly a Bond girl moment, it's very much related. So that's my vote for Spy, definitely.
And I do like the bit as well in the temple in Egypt, in Karnak, where Bond and Jaws are just about to face off, and basically Anya just basically gets a gun out and says, give me the microphone. And and obviously they were just about a fist fight, and it's a much simpler and easier way of doing things, handling it. But obviously the gun gets kicked out and she nicks the microphone. But that whole bit is quite a cool scene with those two as well, isn't it?
You know what? We were talking about actually how she softens up to him throughout the movie very gradually. I do enjoy that scene actually when they're in the back of Jaws' van and she falls asleep on him and then she wakes up and like straightens up and stuff. I kind of like that. Yeah, that's
and moves away.
That's the first little inkling we get that she's softening up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, but, it's good.
But there we go. That. So moving on to Moonraker time. Now, I know you're probably going to have a little sit down for a minute, Chris, because it's I know you're very partial to Corinne Dufour. So let's kick things off with her then. Moonraker time.
Okay, so we obviously reviewed this one reasonably recently, but Corinne Dufour for me is one of the prettiest Bond girls in the series.
What I've noticed about you and Corinne Dufour, Chris, is usually with Bond girls, we're both discussing, we're like, oh, the fucking, cleavage, lovely. And it's like, it descends into like grunts and stuff. Whereas when you speak about Corinne Dufour, there's a tenderness in your voice. There's like, I think you have genuine romantic love feelings for Corinne rather than, just want to grab hold of her and get down to business,
Yeah, I think so. Maybe, who knows? I'll have to. No, but I think she's a cool character. She brings quite a lot to the film in terms of. It's quite nice, obviously, when I like it already. When obviously she gives him a little tour of the facility, and then she obviously ends up. Helping him with the safe in a way, doesn't she? And she learned. I never learned to read. Obviously, I still think that's a bit of a joke.
Yeah, I think
her,
it must
her
be.
taking a piss.
She can fly a helicopter for crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, I think she's great. I mean, her death is such a good, haunting death as well. Yeah. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Corinne Dufour for lots of reasons. Really.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think of her?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's kind of like, I'm not sure whether what she is, in the sense that she's obviously, she's sort of a featured part of Drax's empire. There she is flying the helicopter around the estate and all that kind of stuff. She sort of gives it up easily to Bond, doesn't? Do you remember there's that scene where he comes into her room and she's like, and he says he wants some information or whatever, and she's like, oh, like surprised he wasn't just coming in there to bone her, kind of thing.
For a quickie,
for a quickie. Yeah. She gives it up anyway. Like, I don't know, it's a funny one, that, but there's no shame of it in it, and she wants some Bond dong. She's perfectly welcome to that. Bring it on, yeah. And again, that death scene is rad, isn't it? It's one of those things with Roger's Bond, where especially sort of post Spy, when there is a lot of comedy moments in there. It's very sort of like, it's good to have that contrast of some real genuine darkness. And that scene, like we said, it could almost be from like a horror film. Like, it wouldn't be out of place in The Shining or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was good.
So she has got a good death. Absolutely.
Do you think Corinne would have gone up as one of the perfect specimens up to space?
I think she definitely had potential to do that. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. She was. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see her on that shuttle. Definitely.
And do you think Drax ever slept with her?
I don't know about Drax. I don't know whether he was one of those sort of asexual Bond villains or whether he wasn't. But he seemed to entertain ladies a lot, didn't he? He's got Countess this and Lady that he hangs out with all the time. So maybe I'm not really sure.
He did. Yeah, he's got a lot of them around for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about his sort of sexuality. I guess we never find out for certain, do we?
Yeah. Well, he's a very straight-faced, deadpan character, isn't he? So I suppose that would be a part of him that would remain hidden, I guess. But there we go. So definitely. Moving on, we've got Mrs. Jaws, Dolly. How do you feel about Dolly?
Now, I guess this one's going to divide a lot of people as well, in terms of once, we've had a few comedy moments in the film leading up to this point, but once we get to this point, the film does kind of go into crazy comedy sort of territory, doesn't it? Or, the whole love romance when she turns up helps Jaws lift the wheel and they sort of skip off hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it's a product of, that whole idea of making Jaws a goodie. So it's hard to sort of quantify sort of your feelings. If you just accept that that's what happens, then she does the job fine.
Yeah.
I do like the height difference between her and Jaws, which obviously Richard Keel mentioned his wife was sort of a similar height, so that's really cool. And yeah, so I think she does the job for what she's intended in the film, but it does obviously lead the film into that sort of crazy sort of area a bit more. I think. I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think she's just a lovely little charming character, isn't she? It's nice to see, as nasty as he is, it's nice to see Jaws like have a little soft side, isn't it? As silly as that sounds, but yeah, I think she's cute, little Dolly. Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, then we've got Manuela. How do we feel about Manuela?
Now she's quite an interesting one because obviously she's another MI6 agent who works for Station VH, which apparently is Venezuela. Did we find out? Even though she's in
somebody sent us that. Yeah, I'm sure somebody said it stands for Venezuela. I'm still not sure what the H part of it stands for, but yeah. Oh well, there we are. So that's quite interesting. Again, she's quite a cool scene when she's mixing him sort of a vodka martini when he's in his suite and following him from the airport when he first arrives. But I do like the whole bit when they go to check out the warehouse, and then obviously Jaws rocks up in his clown outfit, scary as hell, and she's got a knife, so she's ready to defend herself, even though it would have been quite tricky, I think. Yeah. But that whole thing is quite cool. And then Bond obviously sort of comes to the rescue initially, but obviously they're not. All the sort of dancers take Jaws away, and you can tell she's sort of had quite an evening, so to speak. But yeah, no, I think she's cool. She does the job, and they obviously got up to something. If they don't samba, they obviously got up to something for a few hours, didn't they? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Good old Manuela. And then finally, well, not finally, but I guess the kind of the main Bond girl with Moonraker is Miss Holly Goodhead. Now, the thing I like about Holly Goodhead is, again, she's another one of those that doesn't take any shit. Well, she takes a lot of shit, but she deals with it very well. She's not just another sort of bimbo Bond girl. She's a fully trained astronaut, Chris.
She is.
Yeah, and the amount of just sexist, misogynist stuff that Bond throws at her through the whole thing. He speaks to her like a child. He treats her like she doesn't know anything. He's finishing her sentences for her, and she deals with it every step of the way. And I think for me, the scene, again, they're sort of level, after a point, they're sort of level pegging the whole way. When he goes to scope out the airport through the telescope, there she is doing the same thing. But for me, I think the moment that really sort of shows how capable she is when they're in bed together. Bond gets up and sneaks off, and it's like, oh, there's Bond being his usual dastardly self, sneaking out before she wakes up. But she's already awake. As soon as that door closes, her eyes flick open and she's up and out as well. I think that's a brilliant moment. Yeah, no, it's really good. It's lovely to see, again, following on from Anya, really, isn't it? It's another Bond girl that's is a strong character, knows her own stuff, she's out for herself, really, and the fact that she's almost using Bond to help her get what she needs, and likewise Bond is with her, and not just sort of obviously in a sexual reference, but in terms of her mission as well, to sort of find out more about Drax and stuff like that was pretty cool. She's got a rad name as well. I mean, we forgot to mention, obviously, Mary Goodnight is a bloody good name as well. Yeah. Holly Goodhead, I mean, blinder of a name, isn't it? Yeah, it really obviously is, refers to her highly intelligent sort of. Well, she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's a clever woman.
That's obviously what it refers to.
Yeah, absolutely. So and I tell you what, old Lois Charles, is it Charles? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Charles.
She has a very, very sexy voice, Chris. She's got
Can you do an impression for me?
I couldn't possibly even attempt it, but she's got that sort of a husky, sexy voice about her, isn't she? Which I'm a big fan of. There's some footage of it would have been film 79 with Barry Norman, and he was when it's up on YouTube if you check it out on there, where he's interviewing Roger and stuff, and there's a moment where he's interviewing her. And she almost looks more beautiful in this interview than she does even in the film. She really comes across nicely there. So good old Holly Goodhead. We salute you. Excellent. Any honourable mentions?
Well, what do you think about the end with Holly Goodhead? The whole space thing. I mean, that brings up one of the best lines in the series, I think, for me.
It does indeed, without a doubt. Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it, where they don't get on. It's almost like a lot of people say Moonraker is Spy Love Me in Space, isn't it? And when you look at the ending of that, you've got the funny line at the end of Spy Love Me, keeping the British end up. You've got attempting re-entry at the end of Moonraker. It's essentially the same situation. It's good. And again, I do feel we need the ending of a Bond film where he ends up in a boat or in some sort of capsule somewhere with his scantily clad woman, and then M finds out. And I can see Ralph Fiennes going, 007! What are you playing at? And there he is, But I don't know whether that's Daniel's Bond or not. I don't know whether that would work well with Daniel's Bond. I don't know whether you need more of a love maker Bond than Daniel is,
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit tricky with. I don't see it happening in Spectre.
No, me either. But it would be lovely.
I guess so. Honourable mentions. Then we've got to say there's the Apollo Airways pilot at the start, obviously in the pre-credits. Nice. Any higher, Mr. Bond, and my ears will pop. Which is quite cool. I love the way that she's just watching the male pilot and Bond have the old fisticuffs, and she's just like loving it.
Yeah,
she's another one that you could tell is evil just by a look that she gives, which is quite cool. Obviously, Drax's women, so many of them. He's always got two beauties by his side, and yet they've got the female astronauts, and you've got Anne Lomberg, obviously in the museum, who's super hot, and various other nice sort of fancies along the way. He's probably got quite a few, hasn't he?
Yeah, quite the bevy of beauties in Moonraker as well. There's a lot in those two films, Spy and Moonraker, with the ladies for sure, definitely. So, do you have a favourite Bond girl moment from Moonraker?
Ooh, interesting. I don't know. There's some great bits where, again, it's kind of like, the whole a woman. Your powers of observation. Do you credit, Mr. Barn? I know we've mentioned that so many times, but it is a bloody good moment. Yeah. I mean, Holly Goodhead does kick ass in this film. When they're up on stopping the radar jamming system, and she takes out those two guys. Yeah, and so she's pretty cool. I don't know. What about you? Sort of best moment. See if it will trigger anything for me.
I think for me, there is only one, which is he's attempting re-entry. I think that's just, again, that's right up there with keeping the British end up. Might even be one of the greatest Roger moments of the whole series. I think that's it. For me, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, if you had to do something relating to Holly Goodhead's, something that she said or did, what would you say?
For me, then, I would say it's that moment after Bond sneaks out, after they've slept together, and she's up and out straight away. I think that's a good indicator of her abilities and what she's all about as a spy. I think that's it for me.
I think, I would agree with you. That's a great bit, that one. Cool
stuff.
There we are. So that's Moonraker done. So on to For Your Eyes Only. What do you think about the girls for Your Eyes Only?
Now, this is an interesting one because I feel like we've had some really traditionally beautiful women throughout Roger's kind of like proper Babelicious Abraham Lincolns throughout Roger's kind of says Roger's studies so far, right? Now with Your Eyes Only, I think things are mixed up a little bit. We've got, I don't know whether that's maybe because, at this point Roger's sort of advancing in age a little bit, and it's, let's bring the Bond girls up to match that a little bit. Obviously the tone of Your Eyes Only is completely different to the other Roger movies. A lot of people say that's because it was either a direct reaction to what happened in Moonraker, or it was because it was indeed being written they expected Roger to step down and it was being tailored to a new actor and all that kind of stuff, whatever it is. But I think the style of Bond girl we get for Your Eyes Only is way different to all of Roger's. So first up then, let's talk about Mrs. Brosnan. We've got Countess Liesl von Schlaf. And how do you feel about her?
So I think she's a great character in the film. Again, it's good byplay with Bond. I think, in fact, out of the three main sort of Bond girls in it, she's probably the one that I think Roger's Bond it would almost be closer to, even though Melina Havelock's kind of like the main Bond girl. There's something about Countess Lisa which I think her and Bond would get, Roger's Bond would get on really well together. It's a shame she's not in it for long because I think the character's cool, and it's good backstory. She's initially, you think she's playing off with people's money, then obviously you're not sure who she works for, sort of thing, and then you find out she's sort of working for Colombo to try and find out more about Bond, and then obviously the accent goes and you find out it's a character almost she's playing, and she's from Liverpool, and and that's quite cool. And then you got the whole scene back at I guess whose place do they go to in the end? I guess they do go to, is it Colombo's place on the beach?
Do you know what? I'm not sure on that one. Again, do you remember I said this is a film I was all about as a kid? I probably watched this more than any other when I was younger, before like in the days before Goldeneye came out, which is odd for a young kid. For I think this particular film, I think there are other ones that I don't know what about this film attracted me. I watched it so many times, I knew it inside and out. And for that reason, I haven't watched it in a long, long time because I want to like forget as much of it as I can to bring it back around again, especially for the podcast, for when I watch it again for the first time. So I tell you what, one of the standout scenes for me with Liesl is that scene on the beach where they've got like the dune buggies, the bad guys have got the dune buggies and they're chasing him around and stuff, or the dune buggy. I think Roger looks rad in that scene. Like it's very Majesties-esque, isn't it? It's like that opening sequence in Majesties.
It is. Yeah, you're right.
And
definitely.
He just, there he's just white shirt and trousers on, open collar. Like, I think that scene's brilliant. I love that. That always sticks in my mind. So that for me is like, obviously that's her death scene as well, isn't it? Related to there. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's my favorite Liesl von Schlaf moment. And of course, obviously she it deserves mentioning that she's Mrs. Brosnan. She brought Pierce to set. So he can meet Cubby and all that kind of stuff, obviously probably with that in the back of their mind of like, well, if you hang around, he might sort of give you the job of Bond at some point. And obviously that did come up sooner rather than later. So that's also to keep in mind, when she's shooting her scenes, probably at some point behind the camera we've got future Bond Pierce hanging out watching it all go down, which is quite important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds good. So what do you think of Melina Havelock then? Sort of the main Bond girl.
Yeah, she's one of those. She's one of those who's just strikingly beautiful, but in a sort of a different way to the other Bond girls so far that Roger's had. Like, you take someone like Solitaire and it's just like she's proper pin-up film star beautiful. Same with all the others. Whereas Melina, she's got like a more of a, I would describe it as a mysterious beauty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah,
and like it's you. Though she is totally capable of doing that, you wouldn't sort of look at her as like a pin-up girl. But I don't know. It's a weird way to describe it. I'm not saying she's less beautiful than anybody else. It's just a different sort of beauty. That's like, she's got those really dark eyes of like real fierce looking eyes. Like you would not fuck with her. Do you know what I mean? You know she would. Well, I mean you might, but like you're going to end up with an arrow up your bottom probably if you put a foot wrong. I think she's brilliant. I really think that whole storyline of there she is out for revenge. The crossbow thing really makes her stand out.
That's right.
I really like the whole. It's almost like. That thing like we talked about with Tilly Masterson, didn't we, where she's a woman on a mission, she's just out to get Goldfinger, out for revenge, and it's a similar thing obviously with this, but this time with their parents and all that kind of stuff. I think she's brilliant. I think she is one of the more memorable Bond girls. She provides, not only is she beautiful, she provides like she's not just there to look pretty, she's on a mission, and that's what that whole story is about for her. It's just for her getting revenge for her parents. I think she's brilliant. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think she's great as well. It's an interesting one as well because literally nothing on a physical level happens until sort of the end of the film, does it? Because she is on this mission, and they're almost like companions rather than anything else, are they? They're like for the majority of the film, they both trying to help each other reach the same goal, I guess.
Yeah.
But I love that whole crossbow bit. I love the bit where she shoots Gonzalez as he's diving into the pool. That's bloody brilliant. And she's got that sort of face hairnet thing that she pulls off, and you see her hair. And then there's that whole drive through the country in the yellow Citroen, which is so good.
That is so. What I love about that is obviously so the Lotus featured heavily in Spy, and all that kind of stuff. And then this one is like, it's almost like a direct reaction to that, where the car obviously just gets blown up straight away without really doing anything. And the fact that it's in this shitty little banger car, and for me, it's when we do our Roger Moore retrospective, once we've finished all of his films, it's tough to choose a favourite Roger moment because there's so many blinders. But for me, one I think about all the time is that moment when they're in the Citroen and the bad guys pull alongside and Roger just glances out the window and then kind of just looks back and just gives them a little nod. I adore that moment so much. I absolutely love it. I do enjoy that a lot. Yeah, that's a good moment for me.
Yeah, he is good. Yeah, I think she brings quite a lot in terms of obviously towards the end when they're scaling the monastery with the cliffs, and they're all about, I'm only 5 men, and she's like, and 1 woman, and you know, she's not just there as eye candy. She can do her stuff. You know, she obviously uses a crossbow to deadly effect, and you know, she is a woman not to be messed with, I think.
Yeah.
I really like the part in Cortina when they're sitting on the horse and cart being taken along, and Bond is sort of saying, you know, they're onto us. You know, his message on the mirror, or no, that was the other one. Sorry, he received a telegram or something, or she received a telegram, and he's like, you know, they're obviously onto us. I'll find out what I can. You go back. And she's like, no, I'm going to stay. And he's like, no, just go back. And she's a bit upset. And then eventually he's like, okay, but promise to come and tell me afterwards. And then from that point onwards, there's a real nice warmth to their relationship. Nothing, you know, again, it's purely sort of platonic initially, but obviously it changes towards the end. But and I think that's a really nice moment between Bond and Melina. That one, I really like that one. It's cool. It's good. And obviously you got to mention the Keelhaul scene when they're like obviously strapped up. Yeah, you know, I mean, how cool a scene is that? And they're both like in it as, you know, in the deep end, so to speak, and like both hitting the razor coral and bleeding and stuff like that. And she's obviously got to be pretty, obviously she's a diver, so that's really, I'm almost sounding like I'm doing James Bond Celebrity Deathmatch. she's obviously, you know, real good diver, so she can hold her breath as much as Bond when they go down to sort of hold the rope so they can cut themselves free. But yeah, overall, I think great Bond girl, and particularly for this film, she's brilliant. She's perfect for this sort of film.
Yeah,
I think,
without a doubt.
So
there was a line,
stuff.
wasn't there? Of like there was some line about her eyes, and it was like when you look into them, it was like fire through ice or something like that. There was some quote like that just summed her up perfectly. And like I think she's one of those, like sometimes you could say like, you could take a Bond character to say like, who else could you imagine doing that role? You know, whether it's like you take somebody like I don't know, a Pussy Galore or something, and you could be like, well, you could make an argument for somebody else doing that role, as amazing as Honor is, and all that kind of stuff. With Melina Havelock, I think you would struggle to find anyone who personifies that character so perfectly that I don't think anybody else could do it.
Oh no, without a doubt, I think she suits that part like perfectly. But it's interesting because although she's obviously beautiful, the character, you never get to see her smile. You know, obviously there's a good reason for that. Her parents are murdered and she's out for revenge. But it's almost a shame that, you know, she has got a lovely face and she's got a lovely smile, Carol Bouquet. And obviously you don't get to see that. So it's kind of an interesting, because obviously with all the other Bond girls to date, you've not quite had that before, have you? You've always had one or two where you have, you know, even a femme fatale sort of doing like Naomi's sexy wink, or a Bond girl sort of laughing or whatever. So she is obviously on a downer for most of the film. But it's interesting. But great Bond girl for this film. Now, okay, so what do you think about Bibi Dahl?
This is an interesting one, Chris, isn't it? Because this is the first time we see a Bond girl that Bond just cannot get stuck into. Because, how old is she meant to be in this film? Do we get an age?
I'm not sure. I'm assuming early 20s, maybe late teens at a push.
Yeah, I would wager she's still a teenager. I reckon. Again, I haven't seen this one for a little while, so I can't remember the exact details. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it, to see. There's that thing, I'll buy you an ice cream kind of thing, and all that kind of stuff, which is fun to see Bond in that kind of situation, because typically you could be forgiven for thinking Bond would just plow into anything without any morals or scruples. But yeah, it's almost like that sort of father-daughter style relationship with this one, even though she obviously tries to get him into bed and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about Bibi?
Yeah. Well, it is interesting because, again, there's another sort of Bond girl character we've never had before or since. So it is interesting because, again, it's something different. And like we sort of said with the new song, I guess when you see different things, it's good because obviously it expands the Bond horizon. She is, it's an interesting character. I mean, it is almost comedy, when she's in his bed and he comes in and he's talking about, why don't you put your clothes on and we'll, do some exercise skiing, and she's like, "What? That's a laugh. Everyone knows it builds up muscle tone." Patting the pillow next to her and stuff like that. So it is interesting, and there's that whole thing with her, Jakoba Brink, her trainer, and that side of things, and obviously through her, there's a link to obviously Aris Christatos. So there's that sort of, she's almost not a kept woman as such, but it's almost like he's her sponsor. But he obviously hasn't done anything. I don't know whether perhaps Christatos had intentions of doing something at one point, or whether he was just being a nice guy and sponsoring her and happened to be a bad guy as well. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think about that? What do you think about Christatos?
I think that did come up before, actually. And I remember somebody on Facebook saying that they definitely thought he was trying to cop hold of her. And it was a bit of a debate. Some other people were saying, I don't think he did. So I don't know. I think we should maybe keep that point in mind for when we review the film again.
Yeah, good idea.
And see what we think. So any honourable mentions for your eyes for your eyes only?
Right. Well, I guess you got to say Hector Gonzalez's swimming pool of lovelies, including was it Toulouse or Tusa or whoever was the it was a guy that had gone through a sex change.
Oh yeah,
and he was one of the girls. Yeah,
that was a famous story, wasn't it? For Your Eyes Only, the first transsexual Bond girl. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so what would your favourite Bond girl moment from For Your Eyes Only be then, Chris?
Ooh, interesting one. I guess it's got to be Melina. Maybe kicking ass with a crossbow. I do like that bit where she shoots Gonzalez, and also when they're going up in the basket and there's that guy about to open the door and it's rattling, and then he's going around and Bond's basically saying watch out and takes him out with a crossbow. That's pretty damn cool. Yeah. And when they're inside the monastery as well, and basically they've gone into the guards' quarters and they're getting all the guards out of bed, but there's one guard that sneaks through with a gun and he thinks he's got them, and then she goes up behind him with the crossbows like move sort of thing, and that's pretty cool. So anything with a crossbow I think is rad. I mean the drive in the country is a big plus point as well, I think. What about you?
I would say for me, that it's more of a Roger moment than a Bond girl moment, but that bit where he just looks over and gives the little nod and to the henchman. I just love that whole thing. The soundtrack to that, for some reason, really appeals to me. Like that. That's perfect driving music. I love it. It's brilliant. I love that whole section. But I think for me, it's hard to argue against the Gonzalez death scene. Like there he is on his diving board, perfectly timed shot right in the middle of the back, straight in the pool. Like that is a brilliant death scene. It's good. And
it's out of the book as well, isn't it? Where the guy jumps into the lake and she's got a bow and arrow, I think, rather than a crossbow in the book. Is it something
is
like
that? So? Do you know, I haven't read the For Your Eyes Only stories in a long time, actually, so I need to revisit that. But yeah, that's even cooler. I think it's,
something like that. So it's Fleming sort of related, which is always good.
Very nice. Cool. So next up, I know you're partial to this one. It's time for some Octopussy. So let's start with Bianca. How do you feel about Bianca?
Okay, so Bianca's the girl in the pre-title sequence when Bond, he's sort of at this, it's like a Russian air base, but they're doing like some horse sort of, horse racing or whatever at the same time. Yeah. And Bianca turns up in this I love it. It's an old style Range Rover, but it's almost, the top's gone at the back and it's like a convertible Range Rover, but all the way. It looks cool. Anyway, so she rocks up and then helps Bond with his disguise. He goes in to be Toro, gets caught. Basically, on the way out, he sort of gives you a quick look, as in, I need help. I need a hand here. Follows him with the Range Rover, and then pulls up alongside him, just sort of, gets the guard's attention by showing a little bit leg, a little bit side boob, a little bit leg, flashing a bit, and they're obviously entertained. And then Bond pulls a parachute, out they go. He hops in the back, and then they pull alongside the main driver bit, and the guy's like, "Oh, hello," and then suddenly Bond's like shoots him, and then it's cool. And then obviously she sort of stops further down the road when he gets the old Aquastar out, and I'll see you in Miami, he says, which is cool. Yeah.
So, I think you've summed it up perfectly. What else is there to say?
Yeah, sorry. I kind of did the whole bit then.
Yeah,
but no, she's pretty cool. He's obviously had a bit of a fling with her in the past, and she seems happy to oblige, so why not?
There we go. Absolutely. So moving on then, we've got Magda, who's a very, very solid Bond girl. I tell you what, the Magda moment that sticks out in my mind the most is her, I suppose you'd call it, balcony dismount. For whatever reason, that always stuck in my mind as a kid, where she's just sort of like rolls out and just like lands perfectly. I think that's a brilliant moment.
Yeah. Me too, because it would be bloody shit scary to try, wouldn't it? Imagine just falling out, and obviously, she's a trained gymnast, and you see sort of gymnasts using the sort of ribbon when they're hanging and stuff like that, and it's pretty hardcore. But that's funny enough. That's something that always stuck in my mind as well. Just thinking, wow, that's pretty awesome. But no, Magda's ace. I mean, she is a proper kick-ass Bond girl. Obviously she's a great gymnast. You can tell she's strong, she's agile, she's brave. At the end, she obviously leads the attack while Octopussy sort of goes in the main palace part. And and she's brilliant. And there's some great scenes with her and Rog, obviously in the casino part in India. And he's like, when they're talking about you have a tremendous, memory for faces and figures or something like that, which is pretty cool. I do think she's got I don't know if this is nasty, and I'm not meaning to be nasty, but I'd say she's got quite a strange look to her. Not necessarily a bad look, but I'd say it's quite a strange look. I don't know. What do you think?
I know what you're saying. It's that difference. I don't know. There's the sort of, like you say, typical kind of pin-up Bond girls, your Ursulas, your Dominos, those kinds of people. You could see them on a poster on the teenage boy's bedroom wall, absolutely. And then you've got that other sort of beauty, like we said about Melina Havelock. There she is. You got the Melina Havelocks, who aren't that sort of pin-up beauty, but they are absolutely stunning. And it's just a different sort of beauty. And I guess, it's the same thing with Magda. She's a gymnast. She's got all that sort of different stuff going on. It's again, it's a different beauty. It's an exotic beauty, I would say.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I think she looks stunning for a lot of the film. But I do like, there's a bit where Bond offers her a nightcap, which is quite cool. When he sort of, and the guy sort of stops him and stuff like that. But no, she's good. I mean, I think, I don't know, there's quite a few good scenes with her on the train. She's in it a lot, actually. In that part in the circus, when they find out that they've been double-crossed by Kamal, and she's, she's obviously, because you're never quite sure if she's working for Octopussy, but she's helping Kamal Khan as well. So there's always a little bit of uncertainty there, but obviously she's Octopussy's sort of right-hand woman, as it were. There's a cool bit in the circus where she steals the general's wallet as well, which is quite cool. But overall I think she's great. It's just the fact she's so physical and capable as well. Obviously, she never actually fought against Bond, but I think she would have been, would have been a bit of a handful.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's a scene when they're in bed, and that's brilliant. Would you like refilling and stuff like that sort of thing? Yeah, it's
Love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Good stuff. So we can't talk about Octopussy Bond girls without talking about Octopussy herself, can we, Chris?
No.
We've
not
got
at
good
all.
old Maud Adams coming back for a second pop at the Bond girlage. Very, very different role this time. Much more a woman in control rather than what Miss Anders was. So how do you feel about Octopussy now?
Major fan of Octopussy. I think her and Rog, such good chemistry. Like her and Bond, like the Octopussy Bond thing. She says it, we're two of a kind and all this. They're both from sort of not dodgy background. Well, yeah, I guess you could say that, aren't they? They're both kind of got dark pasts and stuff like this. Obviously, she owns her own circus, but she is a jewelry smuggler. And so she's got her own island, populated almost exclusively by women when Bond's not there. I mean, how cool is that? She's got her own barge, with all these women. I mean, Octopussy's her bed as well is bloody awesome. Octopussy is a great character. I think she's great. Yeah, so memorable as well. I think.
Absolutely,
I love Octopussy.
What I like about Octopussy, and again, it's like we're at that point in Roger's career. I mean, it must be said that changes a little bit in the next film, but it's like the Bond girls are sort of age appropriate to Roger, and I think as beautiful as Maud is, it's like she's got that womanly vibe about her. She's not like a girl.
She's not a girl.
She's a Bond woman. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Which is good, and she's one that's sort of. She's wise to the world. She's not just a shrinking violet for sure.
No.
So go on.
I was just going to say I love the bit when basically she's Bond's basically her house guest, and Kamal Khan comes in saying that Bond has escaped, and she's like, she basically has a go at Kamal Khan. It's like, oh, well, Kamal, I'd like you to meet my new house guest, and then Bond is just there. She's just mixed him like. A vodka martini, and he sort of rocks out, and you can see Kamal's face is like furious. He's steaming, but it's a good moment. I like it, and she's obviously got her own octopus as well, her own octopi.
She certainly does,
which is pretty cool.
Very nice. So honourable mention goes to Octopussy's harem of women. Always very nice. Have you ever been to an island exclusively populated by women, Chris?
What you mean while I've been awake? Not to my knowledge, no. But if it happens, I'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah, give us a call, man. I'm down with that. Cool. Right. So, best Bond girl moment in Octopussy for me, I would say, for whatever reason, just because it's stuck in my mind so much as a kid, and I always remember it as a cool moment, is Magda, her dismount from the balcony. I think that's my favourite moment from this.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that's definitely right up there. I think that's brilliant. I do like the moment in Octopussy where Octopussy is chatting to Bond about her father, Major Dexter Smythe. Obviously, that relates back to the Fleming book as well, which is pretty cool. And Bond doesn't know the connection, and then obviously she sort of mentions about it. So that's a really nice moment. I love that. I do like the climax with Octopussy, Magda, and all the other girls just like taking on Kamal's guards and stuff. I think that's great, and yeah, I really do like that bit. And they're all sort of kick-ass gymnasts as well, which is always cool to watch, I think.
Absolutely, very nice. So it's Roger's last movie. It's his last Bond girls, A View to a Kill. Now, this one is an interesting one, isn't it? It has to be said. So where are we kicking off with A View to a Kill then?
Okay, so we'll start with the pre-titles, and Kimberly, who is the girl who pilots the iceberg getaway vehicle, which itself is so bloody good. I love it. It's amazing. Cool. And she's played by Mary Stavin, who is one of the Bond girls in Octopussy as well. But obviously she's got a bit more of an individual role in this one. And she's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And if you're gonna get off the piste after like skiing away or snowboarding away from Russians that want to shoot you and kill you, what better way than to rock up on on a bed with a shaken vodka with Kimberly.
Absolutely, yeah. No, she's. I'm very partial to some Kimberly, without a doubt. What I like about Kimberly is the big 80s blonde hair. Like it's brilliant. I like it a lot. And it's kind of like it's that setting on the little iceberg kind of boat thing. It kind of it's cozy on there. It's like in the cabin at the beginning of Spy with the white rug. It's got that same sort of coziness on there. I would definitely like a ride.
5 days worth.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Very nice. So there we go. Good old Kimberly Jones. Next up, it's time for some Mayday. Now, this one is an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, Grace Jones, let's face it, she's out of her fucking mind, this woman. She's crazy.
Yeah. You mean the character or the actress or both?
Both of them are absolutely mad as a box of frogs. And she made like an intriguing choice for a Bond girl. I think she did a bang up job. Absolutely. So how does Mayday shape up for you, Chris?
For me, absolutely inspired character. I think she's so memorable. So memorable. Her look, her crazy clothes, her crazy makeup, the fact she's superhumanly strong, picking up that KGB guy like he's like weighs like nothing. Obviously hauling Bond up on the. I love it how I'm doing the actions as I'm saying it.
She's lifting up the guy. She's hauling Bond.
But no, for me, I absolutely love her. I think she adds so much to the film, so much. She's a martial arts sort of kickboxer as well. Total handful. When Bond sort of beds her, she's the one that goes on top. She's obviously a deadly as well. She strangles Sir Godfrey Tibbett and then helps push the car into the lake, strangles Chuck Lee as well. She's just probably one of the best femme fatales in the series. I'd say easily top 5 femme fatale, maybe even top 3 femme fatale in the series. And one of the most memorable female characters in the whole series as well, by far.
Yeah, absolutely. She's one of those that is, you just can't help but remember her. She's so like, and just sort of like, so you could have gone so many different ways with the Mayday character, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? You could have made her some like tall, buxom woman. Do you know what I mean? And she's just so out there. And I think like that scene where Bond, he sort of like, they've caught him out on the prowl, so he jumps into her bed quick, and he's been waiting for her and all that kind of stuff. Like, I have to wonder what it would be like to bone Mayday. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know how I'd begin to take part in that. I struggle. I spend a fair amount of time thinking, solitaire. I'm sure that would be lovely. Mayday, I don't even know how I would begin to go about.
I don't think you'd have much choice, in all honesty. I think she'd be the one that would determine how things went, and I think when she's done and dusted with you, that'd be it. But maybe she'd want to be an all-nighter, in which case you'd want to have some stamina going. I think. I
don't think you'd ever be the same again, would you? I think you would walk out there a bit of a broken man, probably with a couple of tears running down your face. Because there's the bit obviously where she disrobes and gets into bed with him, and it's almost like she just takes over. You know how she sort of just like rolls over and gets on top of Bond, and like you see how sort of muscular and powerful she looks. Like I don't even the mind boggles, man.
There's a similar bit where she's doing kickboxing with Zorin, and they end up on the floor rolling around, and like she sort of pins Zorin down, then Zorin pins her down, and then she's like almost biting him, like sort of thing. And it's awesome because it's like, whoa, this girl is mental, absolutely crazy. But she's also got some really cool sort of humorous scenes. I like that bit when they're in the airship and the guy wants to like drop. Anyone else want to drop out? But the guy sort of says he doesn't want any part of it, and she's like, oh no, this way, and then presses a button and sort of it opens up to a hatchway, and then changes the stairs into a slide, and out he pops. She puts on the sunglasses, like, job done, nice and easy. and that's quite cool. But obviously the thing with Mayday as well is there's such a big twist to her character, because she is this crazy, memorable, evil sort of villainess, and then it gets to that point, and then suddenly she found out that Zoran's double-crossed her. He set off the explosive in the mine. Mayday was going to drown. He didn't care. He was a psychopath. And as soon as she found that out, it's like, okay, she's going to help Bond. And obviously she had the same sort of backstory to Zorin. She could have been, I don't think it was ever definitely specified, but she certainly could have been one of the sort of experiment kids. She's got this superhuman strength and a bit of sort of psychoticness as well as Zorin. So she might have the same backstory. But it's interesting because you've got this woman that suddenly she's there to help Bond, and obviously she does the biggest sort of self-sacrifice that you can do in terms of like blowing yourself up to stop Zorin's plan, which, I mean, that moment for me is absolutely iconic as well. I think it's brilliant.
Absolutely. There's a lot to be talked about with Mayday, isn't there? You could go on all day about her, I think. But yeah, definitely one of the standout characters in the series. Like I say, you could have easily made her sort of just this sort of, like we mentioned it, didn't we, with Never Say Never Again, that
Fatima Blush,
that's it, another brain fart. She's almost like a Mayday / Xenia sort of character, isn't she? And you could have gone that route, and I think choosing Grace Jones was, again, like a brave move for that character that really paid off, really unique, definitely memorable. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent stuff.
So moving on, you've got Stacey Sutton. How most people universally can't stand Stacey Sutton. Now, I know you do a great Stacey Sutton impression. I remember when you went to the Amberley chalk pits and you were walking around the mines, you were doing some Stacey Sutton. Can we hear it again, Chris, for the sake of the podcast?
Okay, let me just
give me your best, James.
Okay, actually, that was very good. Okay, James. There we go.
There it is. Very good. Nice
It's not
work.
quite up to it, but there we go.
So Stacey is, it cannot be denied, she's a stunner. She's one of those sort of classic pin-up looking birds. If she'd have been cast in Baywatch, she wouldn't have been out of place. Do you know what I'm saying? But she doesn't provide a lot other than running around screaming James over and over again, does she?
Particularly in the second half of the film, though.
Yeah.
I mean, early on, she's got that whole sort of backstory where Zorin sort of, her father owned the house and all this sort of stuff, and Zorin's basically, Zorin tried to buy her out, didn't he? And she wanted to hold on to the house. It was the last thing that she had, and that sort of thing. And it's, there's a little bit there. Obviously, we first see her at Zorin's party at his chateau, and Bond tries to find out a bit more about her, but she's a bit sort of cold initially. So there's a bit to her, early on, but as soon as it gets into the whole San Francisco bit with the fire and everything like that, it does get a bit hard to take, I think. Yeah. For me personally, anyway.
Yeah, I especially think of the whole lift sequence, where he's like climbing up and putting the bin in the door and all that kind of stuff. And the screaming does get she's got like a real shrill peak to her screams, which is a little bit much. But with that said, I mean, she is a good looking girl. You can't take that away from her. What else is there to say about Stacey Sutton, really? Let's face it.
I guess it's a bit better in the end, when they get into the mine and she's sort of explaining to Bond about how all the faults, if they're flooded, it will cause a double earthquake and all that. So she's bringing her sort of geology knowledge to.
Do you think she was like a prototype for Christmas Jones?
What, with the nuclear physicist? Interesting point, actually. Yeah, very similar. The scientific speech and all that sort of stuff. I think she could be. I think you're right, actually.
Very nice.
So what do you think about her towards the end? Then obviously you've got the whole bit where she's in she's been basically, after the mine's flooded, she gets out and James, and then obviously she gets carried out in the air blimp, and then Bond sort of hangs onto the mooring rope, and then they end up by the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, what do you think of that whole bit, like with her and stuff like that?
I mean, that whole sequence is a super memorable, iconic Bond sequence. I think everybody remembers the fight at the top of the Golden Gate Bridge. Again, she sort of doesn't really help out all that much. She's just proper damsel in distress styly, and all that kind of stuff. Lots of screaming James, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think she takes out Scarpine, or at least knocks one of them out, I think, and then she gets sort of knocked out, and then she's just hanging there, I think. I mean, it's tough because, you don't want to be sort of not say negative of certain people, but I think if you're looking at this Tiffany case, the second half of Diamonds, if you're looking at Mary Goodnight, if you're looking at Rosie Carver, and if you're looking at Stacey Sutton, they are the main they're the main reason why Bond girls have that sort of stigma about them as being dumb bimbos. If you took those characters out or adjusted or altered them, then that wouldn't be there, I don't think. But she's definitely one of the driving force behind it, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
There we go.
So next up we have Pola Ivanova, which I like a bit of Pola Ivanova. The bubbles are tickling my Tchaikovsky. That for me is a brilliant moment. I love it. That's a blinder. How do you feel about Pola?
Yeah. I love Pola Ivanova. In fact, it's a shame that she had the smaller role, because I think she'd have made a real good sort of main Bond girl, Fiona Fullerton. Now, Pola Ivanova is great character. I love the bit where after they've tried to record, on the oil pump station, and her partner gets caught, but she sort of swims away, and then Bond swims away after seeing her. They're on the beach. They have a little tussle. She's got this wicked Corvette as well with the flip-up lights, which I've always thought was really bad.
Cool.
When I was young.
That is cool.
Yeah. And then they end up in the Nippon spa relaxation bit, having a nice jacuzzi bath together, which is pretty cool. And she's mentioned how, they obviously had a previous sort of fling when, why do you think I sent you 10,000 red roses and all this sort of stuff, which is pretty cool. And she tries to outdo him, when Bond's in the shower. She nicks the tape and she thinks, yes, she's got the actual main strike tape. And then I love that bit where she's in the car with Go-Go and they play it and it goes, ding. How does it go? The song, it's the sort of spot.
Ding, 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 isn't it?
Yeah, the crazy spa music, and they're like, what? And obviously Bond's then listening to it. So I think a great character. In fact, that's the last we see of her, isn't it? So she possibly could have come back in the future, but I think Fiona Fullerton made a great Bond girl, and I think she could have done an actual main Bond girl as well at some point.
Yeah, without a doubt. Is that true that was originally meant to be like a little part for Anya Amasova to come back again? I heard that somewhere.
I've heard it somewhere. I know Anya Amasova was meant to be in Moonraker. She's meant to be Gogol's woman in Moonraker. But I have heard somewhere that she was possibly meant to be in that role. Again, do you think that would have worked or not?
It's a funny one, that. I don't know how I feel about that, in the sense that I don't know. It's like we've never really seen a major character who, obviously we get the Jack Waits and the Felix Leiter shot more than once, but like we've never seen like a major character sort of really come back in a little sort of in a smaller part like that. I don't know whether the fact that it would be Anya Amasova would mean the audience would expect to see more of her. So in a smaller role like that, it would be a bit like, oh, that's a shame. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's why it had to be a new character that we haven't seen before, because there wouldn't be that weight behind it. I don't know.
No. Well, I think I definitely don't think it should have been that way, because Fiona Fullerton did brilliant. Pola Ivanova was absolutely spot on. But you can see how that character could have been in terms of how it was obviously working for Gogol and all that. So the idea was there, but I think if they had that choice, I think they made the right choice by going with Pola Ivanova instead. Yeah,
I do. If they ever do, like Anthony Horowitz has done with Trigger Mortis, and done a story between Goldfinger and after Goldfinger, if they did pre-Bond stories and made one about Bond's relationship with Pola Ivanova, I would be intrigued to see where they know each other from in the adventure that they got up to previously. That would be nice.
Yeah. They went to the Bolshoi, didn't they?
They certainly did. So, best Bond girl moment in View to a Kill, Chris?
I mean, Mayday's base jump's got to be up there, off the Eiffel Tower. I mean, for me, absolutely, that's stunning as anything.
Yeah.
For me, best Bond girl moment, I'd pick Mayday over any of the Stacey Sutton moments. So I think, for me, it'd have to be the Eiffel Tower base jump.
Sure.
I
think if I'm going to choose, if there is no argument with that stunt is an absolute blinder. That is an iconic Bond stunt, leaping off the top of the Eiffel Tower like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. But if I was to choose a comedy moment, it would be The Bubbles Are Tickling by Tchaikovsky, because I have quoted that
that's good.
So often in my life. Bring it on. Good stuff.
I suppose the only other one would be Mayday's Sacrifice as well, because that's bloody good as well, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's Roger's era taken care of, and it's time for some Timmy with a bit of Living Daylights. Nice. Where are we starting with Living Daylights then, Chris?
Okay, so we'll start with the pre-title sequence, and we've got Linda. Now, this is more of an honourable mention. So, Linda's a girl that Bond obviously... pre-titles of Daylight's amazing. So this is a bit where obviously he parachutes out the back of the Jeep, his parachute's on fire, and he has to find someone to lands on the top of the boat, does that real rad flip over the top onto the boat underneath, and Linda's there on the phone, he snatches her phone off, she'll call you back, and then basically he calls for exercise control, and then, won't you join me? Better mix that too. And then that's her. So she's not in it for long, but still, I think just being part of that pre-title sequence is enough to warrant a mention.
I was just about to say that very thing. That, for me, like we talked about in the mailbag episode, is a masterpiece of a pre-title sequence. There is no better way to introduce a new Bond than that. I think it's brilliant. It might even be my number one pre-title sequence. I'm going to save judgment on that till we actually review the lot of them in a future podcast, but that's definitely out there. And the fact that she's in that is just, she deserves points for that alone. Absolutely. What next? Who have we got next?
Okay, so what do you think of Rosika Miklos? She's the Trans-Siberian pipeline girl.
She's brilliant. I like a bit of that. She's buxom. You can't take that away from her. And I like the fact that she gets involved. She uses her boobies to get the job done. She's not afraid to get stuck in. And I love how that poor little dude is left completely bewildered at the end of that whole experience. I think it's brilliant. Just the right amount of humour in that scene, I think. Yeah, I think it's great. And I've always tried to be a Trans-Siberian pipeline manager ever since, and it's just not happened. So it's pretty sad, really, but there we go. No, but it's a great scene. It's good humour, the whole pig borscht cake and all that sort of thing, and great. I think it's just a perfect amount of screen time for what it is, isn't it? Absolutely. Good stuff. So then, talking about the main Bond girl of the piece, we've got Cara Milovy. Now, again, this is another one of those where you could have... I think she suits Timothy's Bond and the tone of this movie down to the ground. You could have gone with the traditional bimbo for this kind of thing, but she's not that sort of traditional pin-up Bond girl, is she? She's I would say, For Your Eyes Only had the mysterious beauty, and she's got more of an innocent beauty, I would say. Would you agree with that statement?
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, she has. I mean, it's slightly verging on naivety a little bit, but it almost changes as the film develops. So that's quite cool. I mean, it's almost a bit reverse of, not quite to this extent, but obviously Tiffany K starts off quite an intriguing sort of character, and then by the end of it, it's a bit of a laugh a minute. I don't think Cara is as bad as that, but her character is kind of the reverse. Like at the start, she's not quite sure what's going on. She's meant to be the sniper, pretending to shoot, obviously Georgi, and then gets shot herself. And I love that scene. That's brilliant bit. And obviously you've been there in person, which is pretty cool as well. Cara's window and all that. So that's good. And she doesn't quite know what's going on. And she's kind of played a bit, isn't she? So she's in love with Georgi. She's basically his girl, I guess. But to him, he obviously, he's obviously not in love with her, is he? He obviously is using her for certain things and buying her presents to keep her on board for a little while, like a Strad and stuff like that. Or through Brad Whitaker, that was, sorry. But yeah, no, I think she's a really intriguing character, which just gets better as the movie goes on. I love the bit where she obviously, her and Bond are in Austria, and they try and escape, and then they go to Austria, and they're obviously in the cello escape sort of thing. I think that's brilliant.
That's an iconic moment, isn't it? The cello escape. Yeah. That's one of those that everyone remembers, that sequence, without a doubt. And I always we have nothing to declare except cello. That's
yeah,
nice little touch.
Yeah. It is cool. So what do you think of Cara then? What scenes do you like with her?
She's good. Okay, so I think the sniper sequence at the beginning is brilliant. I really enjoy that. I think it's good. I think she's a good mixture of, there's that bit I always think of in Afghanistan towards the end, where Bond's in the plane and she's in the Jeep and he's trying to explain to her drive in the back, and she's just like, what are you talking about? And he's rolling his eyes at her and stuff. I think that is really cool. So she's like, the thing is, she's not a helpless bimbo. She gets she definitely she's definitely up there in terms of what she's capable of doing, but she's not like a full-on. She's not like a Naomi type character who's piloting the helicopter. Do you know what I mean? She's not in full control, but she's not helpless. She kind of gets stuck in, which I think is cool. She plays a mean cello, Chris.
She does. She plays a real mean cello with even when it's got a bullet hole in it as well.
Yeah,
which is quite cool. But I think she turns into a kick-ass bongo at the end. Obviously, she's got a horse. She takes the machine gun to go after her and help James, and then sort of helps lead the attack on the Russians, and driving the Jeep, and she sort of punches quite a few and stuff like that. So she can definitely handle herself. It's almost like, where did that character come from? It suddenly appeared almost, didn't it, in the last sort of reel. But I mean, that's all cool. There are some interesting moments though. I like the bit where she has found out from Georgie's basically told her that Bond's a spy and he's been lying to her, and then Bond goes to see her, and she's playing the cello, and she stops when he enters, and she's made him a drink, and she gives him a vodka martini. Oh, did I get it right? And he's like, oh, perfect. And then obviously we find out it's been drugged with chlorohydrate, and basically as he's passing out, he mentions to her about the mark on her arm, and she's like, how do you know? And he's like, because I was a man sent to kill you. And she's like, well, why didn't you? And before he can explain anything, it's sort of set in, and he sort of collapses, and it's at that point where she realizes, fuck, I've made a mistake, I've just drugged the guy that could have helped me, sort of thing. And that's a nice sort of twist in the character story, so I do like that scene. But I think she's good. She's, again, suits the scene really, really well, suits the film really, really well. And interesting that the only thing that I thought was slightly strange with the character is the part where obviously she keeps mentioning Georgie's her boyfriend. She's obviously in love with him, but yet after a couple of days in Vienna with Timmy, she gets on the old Ferris wheel, and suddenly they have a bit of macking out, and probably a bit more as well, don't they?
They certainly do.
Which I don't know. Do you think that was okay or not?
Well, clearly it was a little bit naughty, but what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with James Bond, and he is irresistible to all women. So it's almost like, look, if you don't want that to happen, don't let your missus hang out with James Bond. You know what I'm saying? So it's Georgie's own fault, let's face it.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I'll stand by that. Sounds good.
But yeah, I think what we have in Cara is, I mean, this is a banging film, to be honest with you. I can't wait to review it. The more I think about The Living Daylights, the more I think what a fucking brilliant Bond film it is. I do love it a lot. She's the good thing about Cara is, again, she's not. You could have just chosen this sort of classic pin-up beauty, but they didn't go with that. They went with somebody who could get across that sort of innocence and naivety that Cara needs perfectly. You just look at her and you get that vibe. And again, she's memorable. The whole cello thing, the sniper thing is great. And just sort of, the progression throughout the film is great. She's not just there as window dressing. Brilliant
And
stuff.
she calls Bond a horse's ass.
Yes, that bitch! Back at the horse! Yeah, I like it. You calling me a horse's ass? Cool. So what else have we got? We've got some honourable mentions.
Yeah, so we've got who have we got? So we've got so we've got Leiter's girls. You know, the girls who pick Bond up looking for a party. Linda and Ava, they're called. So they're the ones where I think Bond's just after he shot Pushkin.
I think that's after he escapes from Pushkin. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the police and everyone are after him, and he's checking out some sunglasses, and they, you know, do you want to go to a party or whatever in this convertible? He hops in the back and pops on the sunglasses, which he didn't pay for. Thief, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll be a thiever. Yeah.
And then obviously they drive him to see Felix in his boat, and I think that's about all we see of him. But you know, that was quite a fun little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you got Rubovich, who is now it's very similar because you got Rubovich, who is Gogol's missus, and then Rubovich, I think, unless it's meant to be the same person, who is Pushkin's missus, who you know came to see him and Bond made a strip and then you know frightened the guard sort of thing. And obviously that she was put to good use, I think, in that scene.
Yes, that is another occasion, Chris, where if you pause it just at the right frame, you do get to see some Bond girl boobage in all its full glory. Yeah.
Now, obviously, I know that you're a connoisseur of doing freeze frame action with Bond girls. Now, do you have a back catalogue of exact times? So if someone went to 1 hour, 26 minutes and 3 seconds, they know what they're going to get.
Do you know what, Chris? I would say that most people would do that. They would keep some sort of logbook. But for me, it's more like Quarrel. I just use my instincts with it. And I just, in the olden days when it was VHS, I would just press fast forward and I'd be like, I feel this. Yeah, no, this is it. Press play and pause quickly. And 9 times out of 10, it would just be there. It's all about the instincts for me.
I love it.
Yeah, but I suppose these days though it's you know you've got the pause button and you've got screenshot. You can just do a screen grab of it, and I mean I'm surprised there might be actually. I'm surprised there's not like a bondgirlboobs.com website with all the freeze framed shots on there. That's something.
Are you not a member?
I was going to say we should pass that one out to the JBR listeners. Whoever has the time to sit there and do that, we'll definitely give you a shout out on the show. That's for sure. Brilliant stuff. Let's for a change, instead of the "you forgot this character" or "you forgot that" messages, we'll get a flood of Bond girl boob messages now, which I'm all for. Bring it on. Good stuff. Excellent. So, what's your favourite Bond girl moment in Living Daylights then, Chris?
Ooh, interesting. I guess Cara kicking ass is pretty cool. I do like the cello scene. I don't know if that's more of an, you know, when we say Bond girl moment, it's got to be something that includes a Bond girl doing something. And although she's part of the scene, I'm not sure. I would say, like, her kicking ass against the Russians is pretty cool. The drugging scene, like I mentioned before, I do like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've got one special one that's jumping out at me. What do you think? There's
a lot of them for me that you could possibly choose. I really like the sniper sequence. I think that's a really cool Bond girl moment. I think the cello case chase is brilliant. That's iconic, I would say. And yeah, there's a lot you could choose with Cara. I'm not sure what you would go with. Yeah, I suppose I'm gonna go with. I tell you what, there's another scene I do like actually. When she's being tailed and she goes into the phone box and then uses her cello case to dress that up so she can escape. I think that's a really cool moment.
That is cool, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose, there's a top 3 of Cara moments then, I suppose, for me.
Yeah. I think there's a funny one when they're in the Afghan prison cell in the airport. And basically, they obviously Bond overcomes the guards, locks him away, gives the keys to Camera Shah. But Bond and Cara sort of walk out the door, or just as he's doing the handcuffs, she's like, "We're free," and he's like, "Cara, we're in the middle of an Afghan air base. Oh, we're in an air base in the middle of Afghanistan or something like that, isn't it? Russian air base." And I think that's quite cool. She's everything. But yeah,
at least we're together.
Yeah, exactly. I think the cello, it's got to be something with a cello for me, I think. So
I think that's the one most people would remember as well. So let's go with that one.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
moving on to our final Bond girlage of the day. It's License to Kill time. You were going to do a little sing-song for us then. Let's hear it.
I was. Well, I might have to wait until Guess the Music Cue or complete the lyric section. Or
All
something
right.
like that.
To rack out a bit of License to Kilt.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up then, we've got Mrs. Leiter. We've got Della. Della!
Della.
So, how do we feel about Della?
Plays the part well, doesn't he? She's obviously in there to be Felix's missus. You know, they've got the wedding sort of at the end of the pre-titles, and then they've got the little wedding party straight afterwards. And you know, she does it well. You can tell she's quite flirtatious with Bond, I might add. They do have a little kiss. I know they obviously go back a long way and stuff like that. And he's like, I'll do anything for a woman with a knife. And it's quite cool when obviously they present her and Felix present Bond with a lighter, which obviously helps him out later on. So all of that's quite cool. And then it gets really dark, doesn't it? Obviously it gets to the point where like he brings her, Felix brings her sort of over the threshold, and suddenly Dario and the other goons are there, and they're like, you know, she basically gets raped and killed, and it's not not pleasant. But I think she's good. Priscilla Bond's a great actress. I think the whole sort of chemistry with her and Bond and with her and Felix worked well for me. So yeah,
absolutely. I would conclude Felix has done very well for himself. That would be my thoughts on that. God on it.
He
definitely.
did very well for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool stuff. So next up, we've got the 1-2 punch of Bond girlage, starting with Pam Bouvier. Now, how do you feel about Pam? I remember thinking when I was younger, obviously, so what would I have been? I'd have been like 7 when this movie came out. And I remember I wasn't allowed to go and see it in the cinema because it was a 15 certificate, obviously. So I didn't see it for a few years later. And I remember, do you remember in those days when a film would come out at the cinema and it would be like over a year until it came out on video? You'd have to wait ages, wouldn't you? Whereas now it's like 3 months and it's out. But yeah, I remember I didn't like Pam Bouvier because I thought her short haircut made her look like a boy. That was my thoughts when I was a young lad. What are your thoughts on Pam?
Interesting, because I think I might have had something. I always thought she was hotter with longer hair, for sure. I remember thinking that. But for me, Pam, again, is another really, really solid Bond girl. She's like, you know, she's an army fighter pilot through the toughest hellholes in South America and all that sort of stuff. She's balls to the wall. She's good in a fight. She's like can handle a pump action shotgun. She's she's just a real badass sort of CIA operative, really, isn't she?
Yeah.
I think she looks great as well. I think maybe the long hair does look better, but she still looks very smart. I think she a couple of times in this film she looked absolutely stunning. One of the times is when she's wearing that dress in the casino, and there's a bit where she rips off the bottom part of the dress, and then she's got her sort of gun in the garter type thing, which is quite cool. And there's that other bit where she's on the way, her and Bond sort of she sneaks onto the wave crest, and she's wearing this basically little nothing type thing. And you remember the guards come down. This is when they put the money that Bond sort of the drug money into the sort of air pressure chamber. And Bond sort of she sort of is hiding, and she's wearing this little sort of nighty thing, and then she sort of slips underwater and goes back to Q. She looks stunning there as well.
Absolutely.
Overall, I think she's great. There are a couple of sort of things about her character, which, you know, the whole thing where she finds out about Lupe and Bond, and she gets a bit almost schoolgirlish in terms of,
I love Jim so much.
And stuff like that. So she's obviously the jealousy factors there. But then, you know, I don't think it's too bad. But I think it's a good match for Bond. Definitely a good match for Bond in terms of the action and everything like that. So what are your thoughts on Pam?
I think it's cool. I like the fact that she's got some balls to her. You know, you've got the fight in the Barrelhead bar and stuff, and the escape from there is cool. I also like how, you know, when Q comes to visit, she doesn't just give it up to Bond and he has to go and sleep with Q.
That's brilliant, actually. That scene's brilliant. I love that. Hope you don't snore, Q. Yeah, that's a great scene.
I think that's wicked. I think that's, you know, making him wait for it kind of thing. I think, it's brilliant. Good on her. She's a pilot. She gets the job done. brilliant. Not a shrinking violet.
No.
So Lupe is one of those classic kept women, isn't she? She's a Domino. She's a Miss Anders type. When you first see her, obviously, Sanchez gets out his like whippy gun thing and gives her a little spanking, which, after things like 50 Shades of Grey have become popular, you never know, she might have been into that sort of stuff, but it doesn't seem so in the film, and all that.
No.
She's I would say, more of a naive, innocent character, I guess.
I would think so, yeah.
But stunningly beautiful.
Oh, absolutely gorgeous. For me, I remember thinking she was one of the hottest women I'd ever seen when I was young. Like, she's obviously got gorgeous skin, hasn't she? And she's like, she's hot beyond belief. And I think, I was always used to think, oh, Sanchez, you lucky bastard, look what you've got. But I think, again, like, the whole kept woman does come up quite a lot in Bond. We've obviously mentioned quite a few already, like Anders, Domino, and obviously now we've got Lupe Lamora. But I think she's an interesting character. There's a whole bit where she's obviously looking for a way out, and initially when Bond is there, she's not up for it, is she? Because she's a bit like, Bond's like, he wants to kill Sanchez, and she's like, don't you men know any other way? So she's obviously seen a lot of bloodshed in her time being with Sanchez, hasn't she? And she knows what a ruthless man he is, and obviously that, she went with that guy and he ripped out her heart, and obviously she got whipped and stuff. So she knows that if she tries to go out again, then it could be even worse.
Yeah. I think there's that scene I really like on board the Wavecrest, actually, where Milton Wavecrest comes in and tells her to keep her door locked, and Bond's obviously like behind the door with the knife up to the back of their neck and stuff. I think that's a really cool scene. I really like that. Yeah.
You also get a bit of side boob in that scene, as it pans down to see a whipped back, and it's a nice bit of side boob too. And what was the time code on that one? Was it 1 hour 2 minutes and 34 seconds?
Again, I couldn't tell you, man. I just surf with my instincts and just I let it happen. Here it is. I just feel it. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
So it is. I think she's. There's a couple of cool scenes with her when there's a bit where she helps Bond escape when he sort of becomes Sanchez's in his home. He's like there to sort of recuperate, and she sort of distracts the guard while he sort of hangs on to the speedboat, and she helps him get away, which is quite cool. There's also a good bit where there's quite a few good bits actually with her, but there's a good bit where what was I going to say? I forgot now.
No worries. There's so many bits to remember. Sometimes it drifts out of your mind, but in total, I think you got some. I think there's a good balance with License to Kill. You've got the stronger character of Pam Bouvier, who's like an action woman. She's a woman of action. Lupe Lamora is more the kept woman. Yeah. I think there's a nice sort of yin and yang between the two of them. Yeah. Nice little balance, I think.
I remember what I was going to say. So it's a scene where after Bond has stolen the money and put the money in the pressure chamber, basically Milton Crest Sanchez turns up with his other guys and asks Milton Crest, what's going on. And one of the guys finds the money and tells Sanchez, and he's like, well, you're trying to rip me off, sort of thing. And Sanchez is saying to Lupe, oh, you must have seen something. And she obviously knows that Bond was involved, but she sort of basically says no. And at that point, that she's more in league with Bond than she is with Sanchez, which is quite cool. Yeah. Now, there is a bit later on which, okay, so how do you feel about the whole Bond sort of almost involved with both women and all of that sort of stuff? And at the end of the film, there's, he could go with one or the other, and it's all a bit, you haven't really had that before, have you? Two women at the end, both sort of after.
That's him, really. A good point. Yeah, so it's like there's, Pam, she's got a bit of the jealousy going on. She sees him sort of flirting with Lupe at the end, and she goes off in the huff, and he does a little bit of swimming pool diving from the balcony and wins her over. So I suppose that's the right choice. I mean, Pam, I would say, for me personally, I think Lupe is the more attractive of the two. But Pam, at the end of the day, she's got a bit more depth to her, and she can hold her own. She's got more going on, a bit more spunk, literally. So yeah, I guess that's the right choice. How do you feel?
Yeah, no, I think so, definitely. I'm just trying to. Obviously, Pam was obviously helping Bond during the tanker chase when she was in the airplane and the crop duster plane, and she helped Bond sort of get away at the end, which I think is great. So, where do we know where Lupe was at that time, or was she? I suppose she was just back at Sanchez's place while all that was going on. I suppose so, because she didn't go to the Olympitech Center, did she?
That's
not that
a good point. Yeah, I guess she's just hanging back on Sanchez.
She was just chilling out. Yeah. So I do think that obviously he made the right choice for the film and for Bond, but that whole side of Pam where she's a bit jealous was maybe a bit too schoolgirlish.
That's not going to work out in the long run with Bond, is it? Let's face it.
No, I don't think so. But to be honest, both of them were absolutely stunning. I love the License to Kill poster where Timmy D's in a black shirt and they're both dressed in blacks either side of him, and they both look, damn good. It's a good film.
So, best Bond girl moment for you in License to Kill?
I quite like the bit, obviously, where Pam, just after she sort of seduced, what's his face, the TV evangelist, Professor Joe Butcher, and then she's, goes out one of those white sort of hooded cloak things, goes up, and Bond and Dario sort of cutting Bond's rope as he's about to fall into the cocaine sort of slicer, and he looks up and he's like, "You're dead." And then she's like, "You took the words right out of my mouth," and then sort of shoots him. I think that's quite cool because she kind of looks almost ghost-like, and that's a pretty cool Bond girl moment, I think. What about you?
I think for me, that sequence actually with Lupe, where she says to the guard she's going to just go shopping and she takes the boat out, but obviously she drops a handbag so Bond can sneak past. And then, like, you see her pull away and you just see him, like, come out of the water and grab a breather and he's hanging onto the side of the boat. I think that's a really cool little sneaky sequence. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that would be my choice.
And the barroom brawl has got to get a mention as well, with Pam kicking ass in that as well.
Not only for that, but the soundtrack as well. Dirty Love. That's a tune. Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, great.
Cool stuff.
Cool.
So we have it. Bond Girls Part 2. That kind of wraps it up, and we'll conclude that next time.
Just one quick question. So similarly to what we did with Part 1, if we had to go through each of those films with the main Bond girl characters from each film, who do you think Bond would be most suited to in terms of an actual long-term relationship happening? So, let's go through. So we've got Solitaire. So what do we think? Solitaire and Bond. Any chance of a long term or not?
Well, Solitaire was last time, wasn't it? We started off with Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. So Mary Goodnight and Bond. What do we think?
Absolutely no chance. That's not going anywhere, that relationship. No.
I'd 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Anya?
I would say more chance, but I think they're both sort of so independent and sort of out for their own cause.
They're quite career focused, aren't they?
Yeah, I think she's gonna be more in love with Mother Russia than she would with Bond. I think. Yeah, I can't see that one lasting very long. For me, I feel like it would be like a Pola Ivanova situation. They'd run into each other on their adventures across the world. They'd have a little weekend together here and there, but it would never be a long-term thing, I don't think.
No. Yeah, I mean, even though there's good chemistry and you can see that, I think their jobs are definitely a factor that would be an obstacle to that happening.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Holly Goodhead and Bond then?
I would say exactly the same thing with that. I think, exactly the same with Goodhead.
Yeah, I'd say so. Okay, Melina Havelock?
That's an interesting one. I think they would enjoy their time together, but I feel like she is such a dark character that she's, especially with Roger's Bond, I think she's so dark. I think it would be a tough relationship to get through because she's going to be on a downer all the time. Let's face it.
Particularly with Roger Bond, he'd crack a joke and she just wouldn't laugh, and he'd be like, "Oh."
Yeah. And as well, there'd be no flirting with Naomi or anything like that because that crossbow would come straight out, and that's not going well.
You'd want to watch your step. Yeah, so I totally agree. Okay, here's an interesting one. What about Octopussy and Bond?
Now this one, I could see happening. I think
Definitely.
Roger and Maud, they feel right together. I could see Bond and Octopussy spending a long time together for some reason. Yeah.
I definitely could. Like, without a doubt. I think in the last one, Pussy and Bond felt quite natural together. Who do we say was the main one in Bond Girls one? Was it Pussy or was it one of the others? I can't remember.
I think it was Pussy, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And but I think for Rog, Octopussy for me is definitely the one that, if anything did happen, it would be with those two. I think long term.
Yeah.
I think
without doubt
they'd rock. Stacey, what do you reckon? Bond and Stacey?
Not in a million years. It's going to be. He's going to enjoy a long weekend with her every now and then. But you know. Yeah.
Do you think like her Shetland James was her sort of her orgasmic sort of rhetoric as well? Would it be like?
I was just going to say, I was just thinking,
in the bed.
If that's so, I mean, that would be a compliment that she would be making that much noise. But at the same time, it would get old very quickly, wouldn't it? You know, it would be like, all right, just fucking calm down. Let's get the job done without all the screaming and shouting, please.
The neighbours wouldn't be too happy, would they?
No, absolutely not. But I suppose if they lived in that big detached house she's got, then that wouldn't be so much of a problem.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why she needed the fucking house, because she's always screaming and shouting all day. Yeah.
Probably. Okay, what about, now we're on obviously Timmy's Bond. What about Timmy and Cara? Bond and Cara.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like she's too much of an innocent for that. Though, you know, he did come back for the concert at the end. He wouldn't miss it for the world and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like when he's going out on missions, she wouldn't be too receptive to that. I think she's got her career. She wants to play at Carnegie Hall and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just don't feel like it would be a long-term thing. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think you know how Bond was, obviously, how annoyed he was with her trying to explain get in the back of the plane. Yeah. There'd probably be moments like that and he'd just get too frustrated and leave. Okay, what about Bond and Pam Bouvier?
I think they would enjoy some time together. I don't feel Pam Bouvier is that career focused. She's not that in love with the CIA. But no. I feel like that jealous side of her that comes out more than once in this film would do his head in after a while. Yeah. You know, if you're going to be with Bond, you need to just accept the fact that he needs to go around and have a little flirt and a play and an occasional bit of nudie prod with somebody else. You just need to be at peace with that, and I think she never will be. You know, no, I think that would be the downside. Yeah.
So out of all of them, I'd definitely say Bond and Octopussy probably
without a doubt.
Greatest chance. Yeah. There we go. Excellent. Bond Girls Part 2.
Good stuff. Excellent. So we shall conclude our Bond Girl coverage next time. But before we do, Chris, it's time for some Bond trivia, isn't it?
Ooh, it is indeed. Now, I was one to ask, I think, first, so I shall ask it again. So my question, Tom, is, okay, we obviously know that Bond is partial to a vodka martini shaken not stirred, but can you tell me which of the Bond girls have also sampled a vodka martini shaken not stirred?
No, is the answer to that. I can't think of anybody. The only one I can think that possibly might do would be Triple X in Spy. Does she do it?
No, she has a... I remember I asked you and you knew what it was. What was she? Something on the... No, what was it? Something on the rocks. Do you know what?
I've had a mental block on that one. Yeah. I did know it. And
was it tequila? No, it wasn't tequila on the rocks, was it? No, I can't remember. That's annoying. We knew that one last time. But anyway, so no, it's not her. Okay, so there are only two actually that I can think of. One of them is in one of your favourite films of all time.
I'm sensing sarcasm in your voice there, or is it not sarcasm?
No. Oh, okay. Definitely not sarcasm.
Okay, so is it Casino?
No.
Did she try it in Casino?
No.
I suck on this one.
That's a Vesper, isn't it? Okay, shall I give you a clue?
Go on.
Straight Up with the Twist.
Oh, Xenia has a go on it, does she?
Yeah, Xenia has a go. So she orders the same one, and Bond's like, "How do you take it?" And she's like, "Straight Up with the Twist."
Of course. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah.
And the other one I could think of was from the last one we just talked about, License to Kill, when Bond is in the casino, and he tells Pam to get him a vodka martini, shaken not stirred, and she does. But Lupe then takes him upstairs, so Pam is left with it, and then she basically downs it and then grimaces.
Of course she does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good skills.
They're the only two that I could think of, but there might be more. So if anyone can think of any more, let us know.
There we go. So my Bond trivia question of the day was: in what film?
Bacardi on the rocks.
Bacardi on the rocks, was it?
Yeah, I think
call.
so. I think
All
so.
right. My trivia question of the day is: in what film do we hear reference to the African job?
Ooh. Okay, African job. Well, obviously, I know he was in Africa in Diamonds in South Africa. I don't know if he actually travelled himself, though. I don't think he did. There was also Madagascar, obviously, Casino. And obviously Egypt was Spy. I think it was a film that we don't actually see him in Africa, and I think it was referred to in Moonraker.
Well done. So basically, it was. So basically, M goes to Moneypenny and says, "It's 007 back from the African job," and then she says he's on his last leg, sir, and that's when we see him in the plane. So he could be in the air above Africa at that point. So in a sense, he would be on the job. So there it is. Well done. Good skills.
I wonder what part of Africa it was. Obviously, they're into circuses wherever it was.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, good point. Looks deceptively like England, actually.
Yeah. But interesting. Oh, cool. Good question, Nate. Nice one.
Very nice. Thanks very much.
Sweet.
So it's time for the Guess the Quote round.
Bond. James Bond.
Very nice. Now, I believe it was your quote last time, wasn't it, Chris?
It was indeed. Okay, so my quote. Now, this one was one of my foreign fancies. Yeah, and I will see if this helps. Okay, so. Eyepieces to header. Cut it da. Any ideas?
Right, can I just ask? Right, this is definitely You Only Live Twice.
It is, indeed. Well done.
I knew that immediately.
Right,
is it a male or a female character?
Do you need to ask?
I do, because I have two very clear people in mind, and I just can't decide which one it is.
Tell me what they both are.
Okay, so is it could either be Aki calling back to headquarters, or it's that dude in Blofeld's Volcano who's like he's like the Japanese equivalent of 10 minutes and counting, and he's like getting on the calling action stations to the volcano people. Oh yeah.
Actually, it is a female voice, and it is who you think it is, but it's not in that scene. So I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but the way it sounded like was eyepieces to header, cutter. Yeah. Right now, listen to that first little bit that I say, eyepieces to header. What does that almost sound like in English?
Eyepieces.
Eyepieces to header. Yeah. Now, what do you think? What scene could that relate to in the film? What does Bond do? Yeah, what does Bond go through? What does Bond do when he ends up looking like...
Oh, eyepieces. I was thinking in terms of binoculars or monocles, but obviously the whole eye plastic surgery to make it look Japanese. Yeah.
So what I've always thought strange is the word whatever I'm saying is obviously not eyepieces to header because it's in Japanese, but that's what it sounds like. So that always refers to it. So they're like eyepieces to header, katsuda, and then it's obviously referring to that. But yeah, that's the scene.
So what's the actual scene? Who says it, and what's happening?
So I think Aki's the one that's leading the surgery. So she's saying it to her other sort of plastic surgery girls, or not cosmetic girls, or whatever you might call them. So she's sort of telling them to put on the Japanese eyepieces to Bond's sort of thing and stuff like that. So that's the scene. Yeah. Cool.
Eyepieces to header. Very nice.
That's all right. I remember. Cool. I'm sure it's not quite like that, but there we go.
Well, I have a much more straightforward quote for you this week, Chris.
Okay. Cool.
It's a one-worder.
Lay it on me. Ooh.
Okay, so here is my Here is my performance.
Okay.
Excellent.
Wow.
Does
God,
that
that
ring
could be
any bells?
that could be so many. Okay, can you say it again?
Of course. Excellent.
Interesting. I'm definitely going to have a think about that because
All right.
I know obviously that word must come up several times in the series. So I'll have to play that one around
right.
and see what I can come up with. Good one,
Good man.
mate. Really good one.
Stuff. Excellent. Well, there it is again. Excellent. So last time we had a quote from Mark, which was this one.
I'm pleased you approve, since you are paying the bill.
Okay, so any ideas on that one then, Chris?
I think I've got a shrewd idea who it might be. Yeah, great accent, great delivery. It's all good.
I'm reasonably confident that this one is from A View to a Kill in a little restaurant that I happen to have been to in the Eiffel Tower.
Nice.
And it's, I forget the name of the character actually, but it's the dude that Bond has lunch with basically.
Yeah, his name's Achille Aubergine.
There it is. Of course it is. Good old Aubergine. Lovely stuff. Cool.
Hello, this is Mark McManus from 007grandslam.com. I left a listener quote last time, which was, of course, Monsieur Aubergine from A View to a Kill. He's the gentleman detective that Bond lunches with at the Eiffel Tower before Mayday kills him with her poison butterfly. Thanks very much for using the clip, and keep up the good work. I love the podcast. Cheers, bye.
Good stuff. Thank you for that then, Mark. Excellent stuff. We have a new listener quote this week, Chris, from Mr. Rob Jones, which is this one.
Hi guys, it's Rob Jones here with a listener quote for you, if you'll indulge me. Here we go. Your coat, sir? Cheers very much. Fantastic show. Keep it coming, and I'll come back with the answer later. Cheers.
All right then.
Good one.
Any ideas on that one?
Your coat, sir. Your coat, sir. Your coat, sir. Ah.
That's one of those I know I've heard it, but I just can't place it at this point.
There's something. Yeah, it's definitely not 100%, but there's. I've definitely heard it before.
You've got some rumbles, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I like having a bit of rumble. Yeah, it's definitely a great quote though. Superb quote.
Cool. All right then. You know what it's time for now, don't you, Chris?
Go on, hit it on me.
I'm not sure you're ready for it. I'm not sure you've prepared yourself adequately for what's about to come. But it is time for.
Is it a Sam Smith version?
Yes, music cue. There it is.
Oh, brilliant.
I still need more time on my Sam Smith impression. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. But there it is. So guess the music cue. So what have you got for us this time? Well, should we check out last week's Guess the Music Cue first, I guess?
Let's have a listen to last week's. Yeah, let's go for it.
Lovely.
Oh, there we are. So what do you think of last week's? Any ideas?
That's a toughie, man. I've definitely got the composer. That's got to be a David Arnold. Am I right?
Nicely done. It is indeed.
I feel like that particular piece could be any number of films, actually. I know it's not Tomorrow Never Dies.
It's not Tomorrow Never Dies. Well done.
I would say it's either The World Is Not Enough, Casino, or Quantum. Am I on the right track with that?
It's definitely one of those three. Do you have an inkling? What's your gut feeling?
There are two scenes that I think it could possibly be. If it was Casino Royale, I'm thinking it would be the scene where Vesper gets kidnapped and he gives chase. However, something about the little electronic bits in the background are telling me that it's not that. Is it The World Is Not Enough?
It is The World Is Not Enough.
All right, cool.
Good
I'm
man.
Cooking. All right, I'm cooking.
You're cooking on gas now.
Yeah, okay. So
we're looking for a scene.
I would suggest that is it around I don't think it is actually that bit yet, but is it around the boat chase?
I would say you're getting very, very warm, and with what you just said prior to that, you're even warmer.
what I said prior to that. What did I say prior to that? What did I say prior to that? I've already forgotten what I said.
So you said, is it the boat chase? But prior to that, you said something like, "Oh, it's a little bit before. I don't think it's quite gotten into the boat chase yet."
Okay, so I reckon, yeah. Okay, so I think what it is, I think it's the sequence where the money blows up, all the fire alarms go off, and Bond's like running to the Q-boat.
It's a bit. Well, that section of the song covers it, but this little cue is just before that. So this is the part where M's going, "Moneypenny, stop King." When Bond, just after Bond realizes, the ice cubes are sort of bubbling.
Yeah.
And him and M are looking at it, and then M's telling Moneypenny to stop King, and then you see Robert King walking towards the sort of money. That's where the music comes from. Just that bit there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. Well, I was close
it's all right.
enough.
You got the film. Oh yeah.
I'm going to award myself that one.
I would have done so as well. So nicely done, man. Excellent.
Cool,
right. Okay, so we've got a new one for this week. Now, this one is going to be an interesting one. Yeah, it's cool. I like this one, and I think that you'll recognise it. But as to whether you can get the exact scene, I'll be impressed if you can. Not saying that you won't, but it's a good one.
All right. So let's have a listen to it.
Listen. Oh, there we go. What do we think?
Okay, I have a strong suspicion that, but there was a similar one to this recently, actually, that I went down the wrong path for. So I'm not 100%, but I'm on the scent. I've got the sniff, and I'm going for it. Yeah, good stuff.
Like it.
We will reveal the answer to that one at the end of next week's episode. Good stuff. Sure. So before we wrap up, it's time for the complete lyric
section.
Very nice. This is where we pose a Bond lyric, and the other person has to complete it. It's not the name of the song. It's the next lyric, which is tricky. So I believe it was my turn last time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, your turn last week.
So my lyric of the week for last time was...
Okay.
You drift through the years and life seems tame.
Now this one is good. You drift through the years. Drift through the years and life seems tame. I think I know what the song it is. Is it You Only Live Twice?
Absolutely right. Well done.
Right. Okay. You drift through the years and love. Can you sing it to me in your top of the range Nancy
in my Sam
Sinatra
Smith voice? No. You drift through the years and life seems tame.
So, is it something like you drift through the years and life seems tame till something like till one dream is gone and love is your name? No.
Chris, it's so close.
Oh, shit.
It's so close. You are totally on the right track, but you've just got some jumbled words in there.
Okay. What is your line again?
You drift through the years and life seems tame.
You drift through the years and life seems tame till one dream.
Yes.
Till one dream. It's not is gone, is it? It's one word. Till one dream. And love is your name is the next bit, isn't it? What is it? You drift through the years. Till one dream it appears and love is your name.
And love is its name.
Oh,
till one dream appears and love is its name. And love is a stranger who beckons on.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Do I get that or a half mark? Or
I'm awarding you that, man. You get that. That was close enough for me. That was it.
You get the music here and I'll get that one then. That's fair.
There we go. Good stuff. So what have you got for me this week?
Now this one is slightly out of left field.
All right.
If it's really, really naughty, then I might have to change it. But I think it might be okay.
Is it dirty, love?
So, I wish it was now. I really wish it was. Okay, so this one is... Okay, are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay. They want the kingdom, but they don't want the king. They want his throne.
Fuck is that? That is out there because I am stumped immediately.
Maybe you should just get the song on this one, or should I just choose another lyric?
All right, yeah. Okay.
So this is just to get the song and not the next lyric.
All right, let's hear it again.
Okay. They want the kingdom, but they don't want the king. They want his throne.
Interesting. See, what you've done there, Chris, is you've chosen a song that appears in one of the Bond films. There isn't a theme.
Yeah,
and that's why
is that bad?
All right. No, I'm game for a challenge, man. Yeah, there's only so many Bond songs we can use. So yeah, all right, cool. Okay, interesting. I'm going to rack my brain.
All right.
I think I might have warmed to it actually, just in those last couple of seconds.
What?
Well, I'm not allowed to answer it this weekend.
You're not, are you? Yeah. No, you're not.
It'll be next time. All right, cool.
Do you know what I'm afraid of? Is the one that you're going to give me next time is going to be...
I'll really fucking screw you over with the next one, you bastard.
Cheers, man.
All right, cool. Right then, so it brings us on to the final segment of today's episode, which is the Bond Celebrity Deathmatch.
Oh, yeah. Flames, explosion, fire. Okay, now we are into the quarterfinals. Okay. But I must say, we've got a choice to make because we only have 6 cards, okay? So if we did it as normal, we'd end up with 3 into the equivalent of the semis, and we could either do 3 against 3 and make it the final, or pick 2 at random or whatever, or we could do 2, 2, and 2, so we get like 3, and then we'll do either a lucky dip out of all the other ones that have failed so far to bring them back into it, or any of the ones from the most recent round to bring them back into it. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do. So let's do 2, 2, and 2. So this would be the quarterfinals. Then with the semi, we'll do a wild card entrance, and then the final after that. Yeah,
perfect.
Cool, sounds good.
In which case, so here they are. Again, there's not that many. Can you see it? There they are. So I'm going to shuffle, and then when you say top, I'll take the top card, okay?
All right, cool
stuff.
So
whenever you say stop, I'll take the top card.
Stop.
That's the one. Ooh, okay, so that's the first one. And I'll do the same.
Stop.
Ooh. Oh. I was halfway in between, but I think that is more under than over, so I'm going to have to go for this one. All right, so the first card we have is, none other than Jaws, baby. Ooh.
There he is.
Now, what do we think, hey?
Okay, formidable. He's going to be he's a tough one to beat. For me, he's always been a favourite to hit the final. I've yet to think of a character who could possibly best him, so this is tough, yeah.
We are getting into big boy territory now. And the person who he's up against is... This is good. This is going to be good. None other than Francisco Scaramanga, the man with a golden gun. So, tough call.
Well, it's the world's greatest hitman.
What do we think?
Versus the world's greatest sort of henchman, assassin type fella, I guess you'd call it, called Jaws. So, let's weigh it up then. So, Jaws, to start with, we've yet to come across something that can actually kill the man. You know, you can throw him into the middle of the ocean with a great white shark and he's going to be able to handle himself okay, which is quite a rare skill, Chris, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
Well, yeah, I don't know too many people that can do that.
No. You've got metal teeth, which can bite through anything. You've got, he's very tall, he's very strong, very physically capable. And so that's a lot in his favour. In terms of cons, I would say working against him is perhaps his size, in the sense that he's a bigger target.
That's true.
And he is also not the fastest in the world. So there is that too. What about Scaramanga?
Occasionally clumsy as well.
Occasionally clumsy, yes, that is true.
Yeah. And I was thinking another potential con, maybe he's now got someone who could be his Achilles heel in the shape of Dolly. Now, we didn't think about that before, but if he's in love with Dolly, perhaps the love of his life could be used against him, either to lure him into a trap or to potentially, it could definitely be used to play against him.
That is
even
true.
though Dolly herself is pretty strong. So, it could be seen as an ally. So, who knows?
That's true.
Okay. So Scaramanga, okay, so we know he's the best assassin in the world, or at least apart from maybe James Bond, the richest assassin in the world. Obviously, he's super wealthy. He owns like a solar power plant, for Christ's sake. He owns a solar laser that can blow up a plane. He's got a kick-ass golden gun, that he can put together really sort of, covertly without anyone knowing. He's got a good eye, particularly after he's made sweet love. He's got good connections with the Red Chinese, so he's got sort of their backing to a certain extent as well. He knows about the circus, grew up in the circus, so he knows about that sort of stuff. Whether that's a pro or not, I'm not sure. He's obviously got Knick Knack to help him out, and Kra.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot going for him, to be fair, hasn't he, Scaramanga? A lot going for him.
Well, if you remember, Chris, this is quite potentially a grudge match, because in the previous round it was Jaws versus Knick Knack, wasn't it? So Scaramanga has something to prove for this particular fight. You know, he's out for revenge. So this is a tough one. I feel like it would be all too easy just to say Jaws is this invincible kind of geezer, because let's face it, with everything we've seen of him in the films, that is precisely what he is. I'm intrigued to see the fight between Oddjob and Jaws. I think that's going to be one for the history books, that one.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking, okay, Scaramanga has one golden bullet. I feel like
is it going to hit Jaws' teeth?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Gold is as cool as it sounds, is a soft metal, so there's no way it's penetrating those teeth. That's it and all about it. We know Jaws is good at catching bullets in his teeth, so I feel that the golden bullet itself is somewhat sort of neutralized. Now, Scaramanga does have his fun house, so there is that side of things as well. With that said,
I think Jaws. Yeah.
With that said, I don't think you could perhaps lure Jaws in there, because that is a normal sized door to get through that funhouse, and there's no way Jaws is getting in there.
You can imagine Jaws in Knick Knack's kitchen as well.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I'm thinking that's a tricky one. I think his funhouse is negated as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm struggling to find points in Scaramanga's favour here. What are your thoughts, Chris?
So if he has indeed only got one golden bullet, which from the film it doesn't tell you, he'd have more. Although he might have his cigarette case of golden bullets, but he's only got one in the gun, so to speak. We have got the whole thing that he hits Jaws' teeth, but he is the highest paid assassin in the world, so surely, like, his target range must be, his skill level at shooting, because he likes to shoot in the head or by the chest rather than the teeth. But then Bond is meant to be as good, if not better, and he shot Jaws in the teeth, so I guess that does negate it a bit.
I also feel as well, like, if you need Jaws in the balls, you get greeted with like a dong sound.
Yeah.
So I feel like even if you did shoot Jaws right between the eyes, I feel like it would just ricochet off. Yeah. Especially with a golden bullet as well, because it's going to be softer.
Could Scaramanga use his wealth against Jaws? Because Jaws is obviously a man for hire. Drax hires him, Stromberg hires him. He's obviously well paid. Scaramanga's a rich dude. Could he almost use his money to I don't know, against Jaws somehow? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe not.
Yeah.
What about if he did trap Dolly on the island? So maybe he kidnapped Dolly and brought him to his island, and that's what drew Jaws to the island. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's a possibility. That is a possibility. Though I feel deep down like that is, like you say, Jaws' Achilles' heel is Dolly. But I feel like that would just make Jaws even more determined. It's like the wild animal backed into a corner. True. I feel like rather than that being a weakness for Jaws, he would just go into overdrive and
do you know
more
what?
Powerful.
I think that's actually true. I can see, even if Scaramanga hit him and the bullet went into Jaws' like shoulder or even his chest, he'd be so freaking determined that he would just it would be like almost like Terminator, wouldn't he? He'd just continue going until he got Scaramanga in his clutches, and then he'd bite him, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Although Scaramanga does have the solar laser, but again, could that affect Jaws unless he rocks it?
Scaramanga has a lot at his disposal, but I feel like none of it is a match for Jaws. I feel like we're grasping at straws of like, well, maybe this could work, and my gut feeling just tells me none of it's going to work. It's fucking Jaws.
No.
He's just going to be relentless. Yeah. I've got to say my vote goes to Jaws this week.
I know you're really wanting to see a certain matchup, and I am as well.
Yeah. But it's not. It's not just because of that. It's not Jaws' favoritism.
No.
I'm genuinely struggling to find any way to stop the behemoth that is Jaws. I just don't know how it's
like
done.
you said, it's a gunshot that Scaramanga's definitely got in his favour, and Jaws could probably overcome that. Okay, maybe it hits him in the brain or whatever, and that might get him. But
I feel like
Jaws
that
has even been electrified, and he walked.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing is the bullet is a softer metal, it's gold.
Oh.
I feel like even if it penetrated his skull, it's not going to do much. I think he's just going to keep coming.
What about the fact that Jaws is a bit on the simple side, and perhaps Scaramanga gives him a tour of his base, and then when he's not looking, he pushes him into one of the sub-zero temperature solar power thingies that Craft fell into.
I feel like that could possibly do him. Yeah, but then that goes on the basis that Scaramanga has lured him in. You know what I mean? It's like
maybe he's not even on Scaramanga Island. Maybe it's somewhere else.
You would have to sort of. I think the only way Scaramanga would get him would be to outwit him before. With outside of the context of a death match, they would have to be, you know what I mean? They would have to be allies, and Scaramanga double crosses him. I think that's the only possible way it would happen.
In that case, I'm 100% happy if we put Jaws through to the semi-final.
There we go. Jaws is through to the semis.
You
Well
happy
done,
with that?
Jaws. I am indeed. Congratulations to Jaws. There he is.
Jaws through to the semis. Honourable mention, Scaramanga made it to the quarters, but he is now out of it. Okay, so there we have it. Jaws through to the semis.
There we go. Things are heating up. Exciting times, man. Exciting times.
Yeah.
So that about rounds out today's episode of James Bond Radio. Have you enjoyed yourself, Chris?
That's it. I have indeed. I love talking Bond girls, and obviously next week's podcast will be part 3 and our final part of our look at Bond girls, and looking forward to that as well. So yeah, it's been cool. I do like the what ifs of if could Bond have ended up with this one or that one and stuff like that's quite cool. And obviously analysing the characters in the films are cool. So yeah, no, it's a good subject for sure.
Good stuff. Yeah, something that you should be made aware of, Chris. I'm not sure if you're aware of this at all, but we have less than a month to go until Spectre now. Less than a month.
What's Spectre again?
Spectre is a new James Bond film, Chris. I don't know whether you've been keeping up in the news, but they're making a new one, and it comes out on October 26th in England. Yeah, so that's not long away now.
Spectre, but I thought that was the name of the organisation in like the early Bonds.
It was, Chris. It actually was. Yeah, they're bringing it all back. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's very exciting.
So there's a new one called Spectre, and it's about Spectre.
Yeah, and it good.
Oh, right. Wow, something new. You learn something new every day.
You sound really impressed. All right, yeah. That's like conversations I have with normal people. That is, when I get excited and I explain how cool it is and how there was this huge build-up through all of Connery's episodes and then it went nowhere, and they go, all right, yeah. And I'm like, oh, sake, they have no idea what they're dealing with here.
It is funny, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So today being October the 2nd, right, it's literally 3 weeks and 3 days away till the big premiere.
Jeez.
Isn't that incredible?
That's good. I'm looking forward to it.
Up on us,
I can't wait. Yeah, it is. And it'll get quicker and quicker. And then it'll be over and we'll have seen it. And then we'll just have to see it like a million times. And that's going to be good too.
Okay.
Sweet.
So
there we are.
Until next week, we will return with our final part of our Bond Girls coverage. Until then, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright.
And James Bond Radio will return with The Bond Girls Part 3. We'll see you then.
Oh, yeah.
Bye. Bye.